another unofficial BR6 cast. We are finally at the finals. Today is day one of the finals. Our competitors today are going to be Ninjas and Pyjamas versus Black Dragons. It's the number 3 and number 4 seeds from your regular season of BR6. It's going to be a best of 3, and the winner of the matchup today will be going up against FaZe Clan. As you can see from the stadium, they've rented out the game XP, and I'm sure the host is going to do a much better job hyping things than I am. So I encourage you, if you really want to enjoy the hype of this, to go over to the Brazilian stream and then come back when gameplay starts, as I'm just going to have to be filling for time a bit right now. But ultimately, we are going to be having, hopefully, a really good match today. So, as a reminder of how the season went, Ninjas and Pyjamas, they came in number 3 at a record of 5 wins, 6 draws, and 3 losses. Now, in BR6 format, it can sometimes you won't get points for, say, a draw that you might otherwise get because it comes down to when you got those draws. Since you play 2 maps back to back, winning both maps outright are 3 points. Winning a map and tying the second one is 2 points for you. And tying both maps or each team walking away with a map is 1 point. But the 5-6-3 record ultimately ended up with 19 points for NIP, behind FaZe Clan's 25 in second, and Team Liquid at 28. Their competitors today, Black Dragons, finished with a 5-4-5 record. And that was good for 18 points and got them in 4th seed. For both these teams, it came down to their very last play date to confirm their spots here, as they went up against Liquid and FaZe, and both of them just had to secure 1 point to stay out of what would have been a 4-way tie with the two teams under them at 17 points apiece. That's Immortals and INTZ. Of course, neither of those two teams will be competing because Black Dragons and Ninjas and Pyjamas were the two that qualified. Now, as you can imagine, these teams have met up quite a number of times. This isn't going to be their first time by any means. And as far as those stats go, I was looking through the last few maps that they played, and here's kind of how things broke down between these two teams. Trying to find the document I had because I'm on a. Oh yeah, that's one thing I want to mention. I am on a bit of a different setup, so if my audio quality sounds a bit rougher, I do apologize for that. I'll be back to normal starting next week again, but for now, unfortunately, this is what I'm gonna be stuck with. But yeah, I was looking at their previous round maps that they had played, and I pulled basically from the NA major quals for Raleigh, Pro League from season 10 and season 9, the BR6 matches from this season, and the SI qualifiers because they played a total of 6 maps there because they met up twice and both were 2-1s. Now, that's over a number of rosters, and I don't want to dwell too much on individual maps and the like that. Ultimately, Ninjas and Pyjamas does lead the series in terms of maps and victories. But the thing I want to highlight when it comes to those maps and stuff is the fact that in BR6, both times these two teams have met, they've both taken a map each. They are completely tied when it comes to LAN events that they have faced off one another in. So that should make for what I imagine to be quite an engaging contest. Now, the last time these two teams met, that was the NA. The frame rate is choppy. Okay, I'll see if I can do something about that. But the last time these two teams met was at Raleigh, and it was a 2-0 in NIP's favor for the Raleigh qualifiers. That is, not at Raleigh properly. And it was a pretty dominant 2-0 for NIP as they won the first map 7-2 and won the second map 7-5, sending Black Dragons down to the losers bracket. Of course, the Ninjas and Pyjamas managed to walk away with the entirety of the qualifiers, besting over teams like Liquid and Team 1 in the process, so that's why they're going to be completing at the Raleigh Major. And the last time these two teams met in Pro League, it was also pretty dominantly in Nip's favor at a 7-3 difference. But again, BR6 has been a completely different beast between these two teams as they have split maps from one another, and they also really like to play on console. So I imagine that will likely be Black Dragons' pick, as that was the most recent map they've actually won against the Ninjas as well. And both these teams really do seem to like to go up against each other on console, although in Pro League, the Ninjas beat them on console. So I'm curious to see how the maps and the like come down. Please let me know if the frame rate is still choppy because, again, I'm on a very different setup. I wasn't able to do my standard setup. And if it is choppy, I'll see what I can do. I'll probably have to just lower quality on BR6's end. But hopefully, things are running all right. Yeah, we should be getting into the match shortly. I'm sorry I'm not able to fill for time as well as I'm sure some of you would prefer. I do my best though, but yeah, and okay, we're going to be getting into the map veto phase. The first map that got banned out was Coastline, as you can see there. Reminder, this is a best of 3 between the two teams. So, as opposed to the standard BR6 regular season, which is a best of 2. And also, this is the culmination of the entire year's worth of BR6. 2019 was the first year where BR6 ran for an entire year long. And it's going to be Clubhouse ban from Black Dragons. Nothing too surprising so far. These teams have faced on Coastline and Clubhouse before, but it's not typically a map that either one of these teams likes playing that much. And also, Clubhouse and Coastline were the two maps that Nip beat them on most recently. Nip beat Black Dragons on most recently at the Raleigh qualifiers. And okay, it's going to be Bank from the Ninjas and Pyjamas. These two teams have not actually played Bank within those past few maps I was talking about. Border, though, has been played. It was played for the SI qualifiers twice, actually, during the SI qualifiers. And once Ninjas won it, both times the Ninjas did win it. And then Consulate will be our decider. I'm not surprised at all by the fact that we're going to be going to Consulate. Like I said, these two teams really, really like to play each other on Consulate. That's something I've found looking through their stat lines. And it's a map that while Ninjas has won more than Black Dragons have, just in general, but also Ninjas and Pyjamas have won more matches and maps against Black Dragons. However, Consulate is one of the few that has actually still been won a decent number of times by Black Dragons relatively. So I think it is a good decider map for both of these teams. It'll probably be the closest of these maps. Black Dragons has also shown themselves to be quite competent on border. And not to say that the Ninjas slouch on border, but we don't get to see them play border nearly as often. And oftentimes they don't look, I would say, as competent as the Black Dragons do. Bank is going to be the real wild card here, as Bank is not a map that either of these teams tend to play a ton. Especially not the Ninjas, if I'm thinking back. But they've likely got a lot of stuff prepped for Black Dragons right now. And of course, the Ninjas Pyjamas have just been on a warpath since the start of this Pro League season, really. They have been looking like the best team in their region, and they are indeed at the top of Pro League in Latin America. Keep in mind that this roster, while they have won gold before in a tournament, it's been under the Black Dragons name. They have yet to win the first place prize under the name Ninjas and Pyjamas. So they're going to be looking to buck the trend this time around and actually win it all out right. Meanwhile, for the Black Dragon side of things, they have this roster. The organization has won, but this roster, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't won really any major competition yet. But they are a bit of a newer, younger roster that does continue to grow as we see them play. Right now, it almost feels like the Black Dragons have been, up until this season, kind of a training bed for other teams. And the fun thing to watch between these two teams is how they evolve at this point and whether one of these teams will ultimately strike a name for themselves. Of course, they still have to get through FaZe Clan and Team Liquid before they can get the gold, but this is the first match along that long process. I do hope that the frame rate has calmed down a little bit as, again, unfortunately, I'm on a very different setup. I should be back to normal next tomorrow. Just situations outside of my control, but I wanted to get this game to you guys either way, of course, since this is the culmination of what the entire season has built up to, and I've had a lot of fun casting it, and I'm looking forward to finishing out the season strong with you guys. You can see the excitement in the crowd as the other BR6 games, to the best of my knowledge, are not played in front of a crowd, and they're also played at a different at a venue. While they are still on LAN, unlike any other league or anything really that we have in Rainbow outside of course major tournaments and minor tournaments. BR6 is the only proper league, to my knowledge, that is played in a LAN environment for every single one of its play days. But for the sake of the finals, they're going to be having, I believe they booked out 4 days actually, but the previous day was not played for just BR6, and indeed none of the finals matches came out. And so today, tomorrow, and Sunday are going to be at the Game XP, which is, to the best of my understanding, the largest venue in Latin America for esports, and also one of the largest screens in the world, apparently, for games to be played on. So it's quite an experience, and you can see the crowd is quite full. Latin America's always had a pretty passionate and dedicated fan base. And I'm sure we're just going to see this crowd grow and get livelier as we progress throughout the tournament. Moving on to the next few days when one of these teams will face off against FaZe Clan, and then, of course, the best of 5 finals against Team Liquid. Just a reminder that I would also always recommend to you guys to go over to the BR6 channel at some points anyway, to just to give them some views and stuff too, because of course I am an unofficial source to try and bring this to an English audience. But I would highly recommend you guys at least watch the VODs and stuff with back too, and then of course you get the sound of gameplay and everything fancy and better quality that I unfortunately cannot provide you. But I think we're going to be getting into the map shortly. Reminder, the first map is Bank. That is going to be the Ninjas pick. And up here comes the ban phase. The Ninjas will be defending first, and Black Dragons will be attacking. That means the Ninjas do pick the first ban. I wouldn't be surprised to see some form of hard breach ban, most likely a Maverick or a Hibana, but we could also see something like a Thatcher or a Monty ban. The Monty ban from the Ninjas is not too surprising. Black Dragons does have a lot of players that are comfortable flexing onto the shields, but so does the Ninjas, who have both Julio and Psycho, supposed to be so proficient. And speaking of Julio, the Dokkaebi ban is directly targeted towards Julio, as he is shown to be quite a force with that Korean operator in a way that very few players are nowadays since the SMG-12 nerfs, really. Nevertheless, Julia has shown his proficiency. Ninja's Pyjamas really like to bring the Dokkaebi for their roam clear. Mira isn't anything too surprising either, as it's one of the default bans, and we'll now see if we're going to have another default ban in the form of Echo and Maestro, or if something else like Valkyrie, Pulse, or the like is going to be banned. Entity is just going to be the Echo. So, variation on the attacker bans, but nothing too crazy on defense, and that's kind of par for the course if we look at how bans have been shaking out for at least the past few seasons. You kind of have your pick 2 out of 3 for defense, Mira, Echo, or Maestro. Sometimes you'll have some curveballs like Valve or Pulse or the like, but ultimately it's out of those 3. And the attack ban gets a bit more flexibility since, of course, Lions nerfs and Glaz's nerfs and Ying's nerfs. So a lot of the operators that tended to be having those highest ban rates do get banned a lot less now. The Capcan coming out from the Ninjas in the first round and in the hands of Eno. Capcan's an operator that the Ninjas actually do enjoy running. but I believe this is the first real time we'll get to see how Pino utilizes the Russian operator. Capcan doesn't see a lot of play in high level gameplay these days just because of the fact that to careful and properly droning teams, those traps aren't really likely to get any targets. But if Black Dragons are a bit careless on this opening set of attacks, they might eat some damage, and that's going to slow them down for the rest of the game as they're going to start checking their doorways and windows a lot more carefully. Of course, Capcan himself does bring decent utility. He's got a good gun, and he has either impacts or a nitro cell for his secondary gadget. So it's not like you're going to be lacking in a lot of departments when it comes to just the amount of utility you can bring on that operator. Otherwise, it's mostly the fact that the gadget is a bit underwhelming compared to a lot of other operators like Legion, for instance, which is the most common counterpart to the Capcan, who also has a great gun. He can get impacts, and his gadget is a lot less likely to be spotted out. It looks like Muzzy was going for a bit of an aggressive spawn peek, but he's not going to catch anyone. You can see Julia has a lot of camps set up top floor to help out Muzzy on this roam since he doesn't have anyone really playing with him from his team. He's going to have to rely on the intel that Julio's going to be feeding him. And of course, Julio can do some nitro selling from below if Muzzy needs to be bailed out. But Julio is actually going to fall all the way back to side. It's going to be Pino tasked with holding down Garage as well. He's taking a little bit of damage. You can see two members of Black Dragons are trying to ingress on Garage. They know the Capcan's position, so Pino's going to have to try and hold this out for as long as he can. Traditionally, you'll try and set up something like a Maestro in this position who has that long ACOG and can play further back. Live is going to get the first pick of the round onto Psycho, and Hugzer's going to take down Pino. Julia's going to fall into Garage to try and take the mantle of the Capcan that has fallen. And you can see top floor control has been vacated to the Black Dragons. Kamikaze will finally get kill onto GDN, but Hugzord will finish off Julio as well, and Kamikaze is extremely hurt while Muzzy is far off sight. Kamikaze is going to have to try and delay for as long as he can for his teammate to get in position. And he's going to push down blue stairs, where you can actually see there was a setup to stop a server stairs push, most likely being played by Kamikaze, but due to the death of his teammates from this garage push, he's had to fall completely off of it. Black Dragons has a lot of time to work with, but there you can see that Capcan trap actually having some success, as it doesn't look like Panico took advantage of the amount of time he has and ran straight through one in his rush to open up one of the open area hatches. That is going to hurt him later in the round, and with the smoke still on the table, depending on how many gas canisters he has, and I think the Thermite just hit a second Capcan, so he's going to be downed inside of open area. This is going to slow down Black Dragons even further, while man advantage is still very firmly in their favor. Just a lick of that Toxic Babe is going to take the Thermite out of the picture. So the Capcan pick actually bearing fruit right now. Jaeger's gun is so powerful too that a lot of these lit attackers can be taken out quite effectively by Muzzy if they're not careful. And that's going to be a down onto two players right now. Hugzord, though, is going to take down Muzzy, so it's all up to Kamikaze. He will have to win the 1v4. He will not. Hugzord, with 4 kills in the round, will look to get a bit messy for Black Dragons towards the end, as they showed quite a bit of sloppiness. Ultimately will be held out off the back of their Thatcher in Hugzor. So good work from the member of Black Dragons. Meanwhile, Ninjas in Pyjamas seeming to get a bit too aggressive and ultimately paying the price. As a result, they had Muzzy pretty much isolated up top. They had cameras designed to assist him, but they didn't have any players in position to help him out. Similarly, you saw the garage hold was being attempted by a lone Capcan, as opposed to someone with a ACOG or a powerful gun like the Alda, or both in the case of Maestro. And ultimately, that meant the Capcan wasn't too difficult of a pick either. And because the garage push was so heavy, Nip had to relocate more resources to try and keep it from falling. So they called it Julio. Julio died as well. I'm not sure where Psycho got pinched off on his roam, but ultimately he didn't really buy anything for his team either. And it was just left to Kamikaze and Muzzy. Muzzy managed to rotate all the way back. And I'm not sure where that double down came from. It might have been a nitro cell, I believe, going off from the Capcan. But no one was around to capitalize on the downs that they got, and Black Dragons was ultimately able to continue to carve their way in from the garage push. The Ninjas aren't going to be gambling once again with the basement side. They'll likely go back there if this defense is successful. but they're going to attempt their top floor hold instead for now. And you see Psycho on the dock. Dock is probably most common out of the entire map pool on this site right here because he's so powerful playing by the banana side or the elevator hallway, working off of intel that it's likely to be fed to him via the evil eyes of the Maestro or the black eyes of the Valkyrie. In addition, he might have his own bulletproof camera to help out as well. He can contest a lot of the garage and long window play the attackers might employ, as well as just shutting down a lobby take that tries to ingress to effectively while being able to sustain for quite a while thanks to the healing abilities of the dock. You see Hugzord though trying to just pinch things out, see if he can catch someone on a rotate, as well as clear out possible electronics with a Thatcher EMP from the skylight. And GDN also expecting a run out is going to hold the garage angle while PZD works his way in from stock. Black Dragons, realizing that their carelessness almost cost them the previous round, definitely do seem to have slowed down this round. And while they did win the previous round, I think they learned a lot of valuable lessons in the process as well because it did get close. But the question here really is, are they stalling out for a bit too long? You can see Julio is still right underneath stock, waiting to C4 anyone that tries to jump in from the window. And half of the round has gone by. We're down to the final minute, just about. And a lot of players are still just outside the building. I'm not sure who, if anyone from Black Dragons, has actually made their way in. I believe Panico might have got it up to the square walls. But even that, I'm not entirely certain about. I believe this Mute Jammer Kamikaze is also having a lot more impact than we're necessarily seeing in stopping these drones and making Black Dragons hesitant to push. But ultimately, they will push in nevertheless and take down the Mute of Kamikaze. Muzzy, though, will get the refrag onto Hugzer, so that Thatcher will not be as influential this round as he was previously. But PZD will pick off Psycho, so that's your dock out of play. And the lobby side defense is no longer going to be nearly as potent, but it looks to be a square push from the east side anyway. Panico will pick off Pino, and it's left to Muzzy and Julio on a 2v4, make that a 2v3 as Julio gets the pick onto live. And Panico, he's managed to get into side. He's going to have to start committing for a plant soon, as he only has 11 seconds, but there should be intel on this plant available to nip. But PZD will catch Julio on the rotate to try and deny the plant, and the plant will go down successfully. Muzzy will get the kill onto Panico, but he has to contest a player on the window and a GDN that he doesn't know the location of right now. In fact, both players are on the window. He's going to try and bait out the plant to start with, and a stun grenade is going to come in his direction and blind the Maestro. You can see more utility being used on him. He's going to have to just try and jump out the window to no success. GDN is there to gun him down, and Black Dragons will win the first two attacking rounds on a nip that just looks careless right now. A lot of the angles that it seems like they're expecting to be held, they're just being beaten out at. And ultimately, Black Dragons, finding the point of ingress they want to take, are shutting down the ninjas in their tracks. They're going to have to adapt their game plan pretty quickly if they want to walk away with this map, because again, this was their map pick. Although actually it looks like Bank was Black Dragons' map pick and Border was the Ninjas' map pick. In which case, the Black Dragons, I'm sure, are very happy and prepped for what they're doing. So the map veto we saw earlier, either I misread or it was incorrect at the time. But either way, that is something that is going to make the Ninjas a little less worried about their opening performance on the two primary bomb sites. But nevertheless, they're likely still not wanting to give up a single map to Black Dragons. And indeed, they haven't until you go all the way back to round 13, I believe, of BR6, where they split maps. And that was on, I believe they lost Consulate to Black Dragons in BR6. Since then, though, they haven't lost a single map to Black Dragons, and they've had pretty dominant performances with winning 2-0s in the qualifiers and winning with a 7-3 scoreline in the Pro League Finals. And Psycho getting, I believe, his first kill of the round onto PZD with a long-range spawn peek with the Vigil. That's going to take the Sophia off the board, and more importantly, the gun of PZD, who's been so influential in this round, this match, really, so far. He's going to have to sit out for this round. Bear in mind that PZD was one of the players that used to be on the Black Dragons roster. In fact, he was with the team that went to the Sao Paulo Grand Finals. Sorry, the Ninjas in Pyjamas former Black Dragons roster, and he was on the Ninjas in Pyjamas for a while too. He would go back to Black Dragons after being dropped from the team. So a win here would feel great for PZD to get revenge on his former teammates that did indeed drop him. You can see Kamikaze playing aggressively in the server and not really in a position that we see the smoke in. We'll often see him, of course, at the top of the stairs, but right in the middle of server is a bit more of an uncommon position. Muzzy, though, is going to be gunned down from Hugzord, who was playing on the window. He's going to check to make sure that the player is indeed down. Bear in mind the points are, of course, turned off in all comp matches. So players do need to check and confirm that in live. We'll get the confirm onto Muzzy now that he has been droned up. But Muzzy wasted almost half of the round upstairs. A good time burn from the Jaeger, and he did a decent amount of damage to Hugzord, who was so influential in this basement attack previously. It doesn't look like the extreme garage push is going to be coming this time from Black Dragons, most likely because Pino will be in a location to shut that down with the Maestro now that the ninjas have made that adaptation. And you can see Kamikaze has gone up to the server stairs. So they only have a minute and they haven't even started to clear out the smoke playing in the server stairs. If played properly, Kamikaze and Psycho together could buy quite a bit of time for their team and make the default plant and push even harder for the Black Dragons. Bear in mind the basement is one of the most utility focused sites in this entire map pool. And it's one of those sites that you want to have plenty of time to attack because you're going to have to bait out C4s, you're going to have to bait out gas canisters, and ultimately you don't want to be caught out in the process. And with Kamikaze still up here on the smoke, having his gas canisters to waste time on the server side push, it might prompt the Black Dragons to just completely fall off, and that looks to be the plan. Is they're going to try and rotate almost possibly over to a vault side push, realizing they just don't have the time to do this default, and indeed vault is going to be opened up. If the ninjas are able to make the read that the default play has been completely abandoned, this should be an easy shutdown from them. Julia's going to get the first, Psycho's going to get the second, and it looks to be going that way as there's only 2 seconds left. Black Dragons are going to run out of time. Diffuser far without of reach. And the ninjas will get their first round on the board. Winning out on the basement site after some initial struggles to find their footing, but it looks like they have finally found the amount of controlled aggression that they want. And that early pick from Psycho paying a lot more dividends than necessarily just taking PZD off, as the Zofia is probably the best operator to clear out a smoke playing in server stairs. She can both burn ADSs, she can stun him out to make the push easier, and of course, she can take out that deployable shield with an impact. Once that Sophia's utility was gone, they ultimately didn't have a lot of tools to deal with them. Life could have tried to bounce in a couple frag grenades to destroy the deployable shield or possibly catch the smoke himself. But it's a lot harder of a proposition compared to the Zofia, especially if Kamikaze plays it smart, and he's shown himself time and time again to be proficient on those SAS operators. The ninjas, they're not going to be electing to go for the top floor this time around. They're instead going to be going for the middle floor, but it looks like we might be getting a rehost either way, possibly due to some sort of bug. We'll see in a second if that is indeed the case. Looks like they're waiting on some sort of confirmation. But one thing that isn't going to change either way are the lineups here. And something I want to highlight is, of course, this Mozzie Mute combo that Ninjas and Pyjamas are running. It's something we've seen a lot in Pro League and higher level play ever since the introduction of Mozzie, and it ultimately makes it quite difficult to drone out the map. As placed properly, those mute jammers and those pests can cut off entire avenues for the drones to pass through until an attacker is able to get in there with a gun and shoot said jammers. Of course, Twitch can alleviate this somewhat if she's in play, but she is not in play from the side of Black Dragons. Thatcher's EMPs can also be thrown, but that's still utility that's having to be used just to get your drones through. And Bank is such a large map in the pool that not being able to drone it out effectively can hurt teams quite a bit. And that seems to be the game plan here from the Ninjas and Pajamas, who are probably going to be using a bulk of those devices to help their top floor roam on the middle site of Bank and hold out and stall out on that site for as long as possible. Now, there is an adaptation that was brought in from Black Dragons that should help them with some aspects of their push, and that is, of course, the IQ, as they realized that the sheer amount of intel that the ninjas have been running off of that Valkyrie, and of course the Maestro as well, but primarily the Valkyrie, whose cameras may not being spotted right now by Black Dragons. They want to bring that IQ just to make sure that they can catch them and take them out, so that ninjas have a lot less intel to work off of and adapt to whatever Black Dragon is trying to throw their way. So we started off with quite a hot start from the Black Dragons as they won those 2 rounds in a row fairly dominantly, all things considered. It looked like just 1 or 2 members of Ninjas and Pajamas were awake in each of those rounds. And as a result, Black Dragons were able to just get the map control they wanted and push in through that. They did stall out a lot more in that second attack compared to their first one, where they pushed Garage and found the one weakness they needed to and abused it and managed to get all the way through. They didn't have that same success on the top floor, but ultimately they still won it out anyway. However, that third round showed that Ninjas in Pajamas have a lot more signs of life in them than you might have suspected from the initial 2 rounds, and a lot more players came alive during that round. We saw Psycho get his first kill, and of course, Pino tagging in to assist as well, and Julio coming to life as well. So, one of the things that the Ninjas used to be extremely poor at was consistency, and they often struggled to bring much to the table if they weren't consistent. The only player on that roster who seemed to have 100% consistency was, of course, Psycho, which is why he made such a name for himself, really putting up some insane numbers during season 9, but it wasn't enough to get his team across the board because there are quite a number of games that the rest of his teammates just didn't seem to be on the same page. That's all really changed with this season, and Julio in particular has come back to be the forceful, powerful player that he had been in previous seasons. And we've seen him just clutch round after round and be that huge impact player, while Muzzy and Pino, who were new to the team and newish, I'd say, to Pro League and higher level play, although Pino had played back before the ESL rules kicked into effect in Latin America, and then he was not able to play because he was under 18. Both of those players, though, have come into their own now with the start of this season, and even Kamikaze has stepped up, and Psycho has actually had the worst stats of the split for the Ninjas and Pajamas. He hasn't even broken even in his KD this season, which is crazy to think about when you compare it to his previous season performance, but ultimately a good thing if you are the Ninjas, as it's shown that as a team they're able to perform and play to a higher level than they were previously when they had to rely on a singular player. And while Psycho's numbers will go down as a result, winning at the end of the day is what matters. And everyone knows that Psycho can step up when he needs to. He definitely has that in him. He's shown it time and time again. The great thing for the Ninjas so far is that he hasn't had to. And if that trend continues, it's going to be quite a difficult obstacle for Black Dragons to overcome, as it looks like the members of the Ninjas are now starting to get into their footing and really show what's given them so much success this entire season thus far in these past 3 or so months. But we'll finally be getting back into the match. As I said before, this is going to be a middle floor defense. Keep in mind that during a rehost, you have to hold the same operators and the same site. If there were any 6 picks, you can pick directly into the operator instead of 6 picking to the operator, which is what I believe Psycho did, as I don't think he did the 6 pick from the Vigil to the Mozzie, likely realizing that he had been droned out anyway, so it didn't matter at this point. The Mozzie wasn't going to be a surprise. And again, Black Dragons, they can't change up their lineup either. Now, if the players wanted to, they could change up their strat and how they set things up. And we actually saw that recently during the APAC Raleigh finals with Aerowolf versus Cyclops Gaming. The final round was rehosted, and Cyclops completely changed up the strategy that they were originally intending to employ on that final match point round and ultimately won out. So that is an option the teams can employ, but the Ninjas really didn't have a lot of their stuff shown because, of course, they did call that rehost just within the first few seconds of prep phase, and the top floor hold is what this lineup is going to be most efficient at, especially stalling out time off of the backs of that Mozzie and Mute to really make the drone clear for Black Dragons much more difficult. Bear in mind, the Black Dragons aren't really running anything to insist in their roam clear either. They, of course, did ban out the Dokkaebi, which is a powerful tool for the roam clear, but the Lion and the Jackal are both still available for clearing out roamers as well, and neither is going to be run by Black Dragons, so they might struggle a bit on this roam clear. Julio is also going to struggle a bit with tossing that C4, and ultimately will get stuck in the wall, and he'll retrieve it, realizing that the moment has passed, especially now that he's been droned out, and he's going to fall a bit further back towards the site, going into open area with a rotate available to him back into the site if he so chooses. The Ninjas once again employing a bit more of a off-site presence and a freeform defense than necessarily having multiple members just sit on the site, but that's typically how you have to play this middle floor, especially with your top floor roam, as once you lose the top floor, it becomes a lot harder to hold onto the site proper due to the amount of holes that can be made and abused by the attack up top. Pino, though, is going to get rid of the man that's the best at making holes, and that's going to be your Thermite, and the Hard Breach is taken out, and Diffuser is also dropped. You can see Psycho playing a bit of a longer angle to try and deal with any players that grab the Diffuser and push in. And while a frag grenade will come out and take down Kamikaze, Psycho hasn't been dislodged from his position one bit. Hugsard, though, will get Pino, and Black Dragons are just in sight, but Hugsard's going to gun down live. PZD will get Julio, but Psycho's still above. And Muzzy, far off site inside of lobby, is going to have to retake his own site. Now the members of Black Dragons have got it in. The IQ, though, has been down. That is Hugzord, so it's a 2v2 between GDN and PZD. If Muzzy is able to make his way back into the site, it could be quite difficult for Black Dragons to make anything work, especially if Ninjas and Pyjamas have a lot of intel available thanks to the Mozzie drones, Black Eyes, or the Evil Eyes. First plant is going to be going down, and Muzzie's going to be spraying where he thinks it might be, but missing the planter just by a hair, and the diffuser will go down successfully. GDN coming through the rotate hole and gunning down. Muzzie leaves Psycho in a 1v2. Black Dragons having an excellent read on the weakness of the site and just pushing in without committing to the top floor clear. Psycho, though, is going to land a headshot onto GDN, so it's a 1v1 between him and PZD. The former teammates will be going at one another to see who walks away with this round, but it looks like Psycho has his back to where the Zophia's coming in from. He's going to run right into her sights, and PZD, happy about his kill, will give Black Dragons the lead 3-1 so far. The Ninjas struggling to find success anywhere other than the bottom floor right now, and oftentimes they seem to be struggling with the same failures on their defense. They're spreading themselves out, thinking that they have their bases covered. Psycho, of course, playing those holes up above, but ultimately they weren't in the right places, or he wasn't checking them at the right times. As Black Dragons found the one hole they needed to get into the site, take advantage, and win the round. It got, once again, messy and a bit too close for comfort if you are Black Dragons, as players were downed and team killed in the process. But a win is still a win. Doesn't matter how messy it gets. The best the Ninjas can now do on their bank defenses is going to be an even split. Bank is one of those maps that isn't traditionally thought of as attacker or defensive favored. Of course, with the current meta, most maps are defensive favored in general, but Bank has always been a bit more of the balanced kind. However, not winning out or taking an even split in the current meta, especially when you consider the bans being a lot more lenient, I would say, to the style of play that ninjas are performing right now, that is that a lot of the roam clear possibilities and the Monty and the Doke being removed, means that the ninjas likely don't want to just have to split even. They'll be fine with it either way, and they'll have to be. And I think that the attack won't be too hampered in this push onto Bank, although the Dokubi being lost for Julio might cause the ninjas to change up their game plan a fair bit, as he has been playing that operator quite a lot recently. But ultimately, the ninjas likely wanted to walk away with at least a 4-2, and at the very least, they need to find success with a site that isn't the basement floor. They will get to go back to it later, and Psycho goes for a run out and finds absolutely nothing. The intel just not in play, and the dock likely to be gunned down for his troubles. We'll see if he's able to rotate back in, and no, he will not be, as GDN is there to shut him down. That is a huge freebie for the Black Dragons in the first minute of the round. Psycho just not having the intel for that gutsy run out is going to cost his team quite a fair bit, especially in terms of the firepower that Doc and Psycho in particular can bring. The other members of the Ninjas are going to have to step up if they want to split this half. Still, Julio, once again, in open area. It's kind of been his point of preference in every single round, but he hasn't found the success with said point yet that he would like otherwise. He is asking for his teammates to jump onto the cams and let him know when someone walks over his C4. And that's probably going to be Psycho, the dead player on the dock, watching that cam to let Julio know when to detonate. He also has the hatch opened up above, but Muzzy is there to protect him in case a player tries to peek it, and it's going to be a nice crossfire between the Maestro and the Valkyrie because she is down below underneath said hatch. Black Dragons, despite that initial pick, seem to be stalling out a bit with their attack. They do have some presence up top, but I'm not even sure if the square walls have been opened up quite yet. Panico, though, has eaten a little bit of damage, so it's likely those walls were finally open. But Black Dragons are going to have to start stepping on the gas as they only have 48 seconds remaining to make this push happen. A kill narrowly missed out on there by Hugzord as he saw the Jaeger running away and rotating back into sight. And Julio is also going to start coming back towards sight, playing at the top of the skylight stairs. Muzzy, though, is going to get the first kill for Ninjas as live will go down. That's your buck taken out of play. Some of your frag grenades gone. And ultimately evening things out at a 4v4 in the final 20 seconds. Hugzord being beaten to the punch by Julio as he peeks around the corner, and Muzzy getting the kill onto Panico. And all of a sudden, man count is in favor of the Ninjas. Black Dragons really just struggling and struggling in vain as Kamikaze and Julio will wrap up the final 2 kills of the round. And the Ninjas will win a round that started off quite poorly with them as Psycho gave himself to the NOE with an ill-advised jump out. But like I've been saying, the Ninjas have found a new footing in this season that allows them to play really without Psycho in the picture one bit. What that means is the Psycho gets a lot more freedom as a player to adapt and move around and do damage where he can, but the Ninjas can really work even if he's out of the picture. It's something similar to what we've seen with Empire and how they play Joystick as a bit of that wild card who isn't going to be in as set of a role per se as the rest of his team is. And ultimately, even if Joystick falls early, Empire is able to adapt and work without him. And that seems to be a similar vein that the Ninjas are going towards. And it's been getting them a lot more wins as the other 4 members of the team have really stepped up to the level. For Black Dragons, a attack that by all means was very promising with that early pick onto the dock. It meant that a lot of the west side coverage was just gone from the side of the Ninjas. But despite that early pick, Black Dragon still seemed very hesitant on pushing into the site proper. And the double stack on the north windows not paying the dividends that Black Dragons had on the previous round, where those 2 players outside the windows were ultimately what cost Muzzy his retake attempts. But if the rest of the players are unable to push in and that sometimes will happen if you're doing a 2v4 onto the site because you have two players trying to just play the windows. Zord will be taking out a cam early on from said windows, and it's going to be a very heavy top four presence from the Ninjas despite the basement defense. Or sorry, it's actually an open area defense. So a peculiar site pick from my mistake again. No, it is going to be the middle floor of the Teller's Archives defense. A bit of an oddity in terms of the site pick, considering the basement site is still available to the Ninjas and they've yet to win this site. But I'd imagine they read into the fact that one, Black Dragons is likely going to be able to adapt and possibly win out on their basement attacks if they get another crack at it. They did win the first basement attack they committed to, but lost the second. And also, Black Dragon's likely not going to be expecting this middle floor defense. And Ninjas in Pajamas reasoning that last time Black Dragons caught them unawares, they found the one vulnerability into the site and abused it and just charged right in. We'll probably see some better intel gathering set up from the side of the Ninjas too, so that in case such a situation happens, Muzzy can get the kill onto the planter or Psycho from above. Kamikaze and Panico, it looks like, are going to be getting into an initial engagement with players walking away about half their health remaining, as a frag grenade will go soaring out, but ultimately connect with nothing, as will the Nitro Cell that comes flying out. But Hugsword is going to eat a little bit of damage in the process. Live will spot out the black guy that was relaying all of this information, so the Ninjas in Pajamas will have to run blind when it comes to the square side push, but they bought a lot of time already. Black Dragon's on to 50 seconds left of the round, and really struggling to take map control. GDN, though, will gun down Julio, so that is a good start. As Panico now looking to see if he can get into the site, peeking in from the window. Trying to spot out a player, trying to take him down from above. Kamikaze is extremely low on health, and Live will work his way into the site, but Muzzy and Pino will be there to take down his teammates around him. Muzzy's going to get Hugzord. Kamikaze's going to gun down Live from above. GDN will get one onto Psycho, but ultimately it is futile. As Muzzy, there with the Alda, gunning people down round after round. He's shown himself to be so powerful here with that gun. And that's going to be the Ninjas salvaging the half and walking away with a 3-3 split as they now get to go on to their attacking set. While the Ninjas definitely employed a bit more of an aggressive freeform defense than you might typically see on some of these bank sites, wanting to spread out and extend their map control as far as possible to make the Black Dragons wary of pushing in and stall them out for as long as possible. In some rounds, that was quite successful. In other rounds, Black Dragons read into the strategies and found the weak points so that they could just push right into sight, which is ultimately the danger when you spread out your map control that thin. However, I'm not expecting to see a similar setup from the Black Dragons. I think they will play this a bit more default and a bit closer to sight, especially here on this basement defense. And I think the Kaeda is a really big indicator of how they intend to play this site, as he's going to make it a little bit harder for the hard breachers to get to the hatches. Granted, with Nips having the Thatcher in play, it's likely not going to slow them down too much. One thing that the Ninjas are doing for this basement attack that Black Dragons wasn't running so much on their attacks is, of course, running the Hibana. Once again, I do apologize if the stream quality isn't the best. I'm on a different setup. I'm going to see what I can do after this map to try and polish things up a little bit. But ultimately, again, I apologize. I'm in a different location and a different setup and trying to do my best to make this cast as effective as I can. Ninjas in Pajamas droning out the open area and looking like they're going to be going for a default take, as nothing too crazy coming out. Ninjas in Pajamas are also going to be running the Capitao, a powerful operator that the Black Dragons did not run one round on their attacks. Bit of a peculiar choice because of how strong Capitao is in general, and especially on this map, although I feel like I say that for every single map because of the sheer strength of his utility, but here he can deny that red hallway where nitrocells and smokes often will try and play, cut off retake potential, and also be a huge threat if he's playing from the windows on the top floor. Server hatch is going to be opened up, and they're going to cause the players of Black Dragons, that was the two SAS operators with the smoke and the mute, to fall back from the server hold. PCD holding on to the green stairs to make sure they don't get flanked from that side. A very common position for the Jaeger if he's not going to be playing on the server stairs. And he does have the support of his teammate in live. The ninjas are going to have to start their default push rather soon if they want to get through the sheer amount of utility that Black Dragons has, as they do have 2 nitro cells and 3 gas canisters still in their pocket. All of the hatches have been opened up, and you can see 3 members of the ninjas set up above to try and blind out and utilize utility to take down players playing inside of the red hallway. That's going to be the Kaya, then a frag grenade is going to be sent his way. He's going to eat a little bit of damage, but ultimately walk away with 75% of his health. PCD, though, is going to be taken down extremely low. So, Ninjas in Pyjamas at a health advantage right now. And the flank up from Black Dragon's not bearing fruit. One player, though, will be taken out, and Muzzy's going to get refragged, but Julio's there for the trade, so man advantage will still stay in the favor of the Ninjas, as they'll take down the Mute and the Jaeger. Panico taking a lot of fire in his direction, but GDN will win out against Psycho. Hugzord will take down Kamikaze, but Pino is there to shut down Panico. 20 seconds left in the round, though, and the plant is going to have to go down shortly. Hugzord's going to take down Pino, but Julio drops in and takes down the Maestro. 11 seconds in a 1v1. The Hibana knows where the smoke is, but can she win out on the gunfight? And no, GDN wins that out with the SMG-11. And Black Dragons will walk away with the first defensive round, regaining their lead on this map. Ultimately, time being the biggest enemy of the ninjas there, as they fought and fought and fought to get in, because they realized that despite their swifter take upstairs and getting their first 2 floors worth of control, they didn't try and go for any of the default pushes. They wanted to make sure that the players inside of the red hallway were on lockdown so they couldn't take out Thermite. And the real big detriment to that was the fact that Psycho, the Capitao, who's supposed to deny that entire avenue of play, was gunned down, or not early in the round, but before he was able to utilize his utility and shut down that red hallway play the Black Dragons will employ to deny the default plant spot. Once that was done, they had to just swarm players in to try and win out those gunfights and kill the players there, because they knew if they went for anything default, they were a nitrocell or a gas canister away from being taken down completely. To the Ninjas' credit, they managed to put things into a 1v1 there at the end between Julio and GDN, but the smoke would be the victor in that engagement. It's going to be a middle floor defense now from Black Dragons for their second site, not electing to go up to the top floor immediately, which is what most teams will do on their secondary site, but that's similar to how we saw the Ninjas playing Bank, where they would utilize this middle floor site quite a bit as well, even when they had other options. Exhort whiffing that first Electric Claw, but ultimately getting on the hatch. And you can see Black Dragons, they've always been a team that really likes using the Kaid. They'll pass it around in their roster to make sure someone is on it on quite a number of maps. And they're going to be using it in this case to expand their hold of the Archives Tellers in towards the open area, fortifying those hatches so it's not as easy to pinch off roamers in said position, and then electrifying those hatches to cause Nip to burn a fair bit of utility if they want to pinch out the roamers playing there. GDN is also tasked with making it a lot harder to get to those hatches because he's going to be playing aggressively on this janitor closet. And keep in mind that Ninjas in Pyjamas have actually dropped their Hibana this round, putting Julio on the IQ instead. That means that those hatches, if they choose to be opened up, they can still get 2 of them because they have the Thermite, but they will not be able to get any other walls. Muzzy and Psycho, though, taken out by two C4s in quick succession. And Hugzor is going to lay a third onto Julio, and Black Dragon's looking in great position to close out another round. Even though half the round still remains, PZD does have the top floor control he wanted, and he's going to start opening up some holes with the sledge to try and catch off any sight players. But he knows he's in a dangerous position, and if he loses out on any of these gunfights, it's going to lose Kamikaze in a 1v5, and he can't focus on the holes too much because he might get gunned down just like that by Live. Kamikaze will get the first kill for the ninjas onto PZD, but he still has to find a 1v4. He won't even find one more. Hugzord's there to shut him down, and Black Dragon's going up 5-3 on this first map. Yeah, once again, I am on a different setup, and I'm not entirely certain why it's so laggy. I will again do what I can to fix it after this map, but I do apologize for that. I know it's making it a bit more difficult to watch, and I am very sorry about that. I can lower the quality here for now, though, and that might help out. Hopefully it does. Looks like the first tactical timeout, I believe, was just called now by the ninjas, as they are now just one round away from it being pushed to match point. So a good point to be calling their tactical timeout. And the ninjas just seem kind of uncertain and hesitant on a lot of these attack rounds towards how and where they want to push. You're seeing a lot of players double or triple stacked up onto a singular location and not really utilizing that manpower effectively on that basement attack. We saw three players stacked up in the open area when it really wasn't necessary. And then on the top floor attack, that's why the double nitro cell was so effective, was the fact that they were all clumped up on the square balcony side, just trying to figure out how they wanted to push the player inside a gender, how they wanted to clear out open area, and not getting to the point where they could do any of that work. Of course, the Mozzie mute combo holding out that top floor was a large portion of why they probably struggled to drone out properly. But it's something they're going to have to tighten up if they want to win this round. And it looks like the Nomad is being brought out as an adaptation from the ninjas to deal with Black Dragons. We've seen the members of Black Dragons on quite a number of these rounds push in for those late round flanks, and while they haven't always been successful, if you just don't have to worry about it, it's probably the smarter call. And now I don't know why this cursor won't go away. I'll go back to full screening it and see if that fixes anything. But yeah, again, I do apologize for the lower quality of the stream this time around. Again, I'm on a different setup, unfortunately, but I will be back to normal tomorrow. And yeah, just something out of my control as far as why I couldn't use my standard setup. Black Dragons going to the top four. They're not going to be gambling with the open area defense, and most logical play. Honestly, very few teams like to play that open area, especially without a Mira in play, and the top floor is just such a powerful sight. We've seen the Electroclaws be set up down below to get the square side walls. And while the Thatcher can still take them out from above with his EMP, it does make it a bit harder for the ninjas to find those electric claws unless they're able to draw out that they were set up down below, should they not be able to rely on the Thatcher doing his work. In addition, it means that the electric claws can't be taken out from the north side window rappel, which, again, if the Thatcher is taken out early on, could spell disaster for the ninjas in just trying to remove the electrics of the Kaid. They will also have to deal with the Kaid playing down below should they try and get these electric claws. And of course, he has a C4 ready and available to deal with players should they not clear him out down below. He also has Live working in tandem with him to set up. Psycho getting the first kill of the round onto Panico, and that's going to be the Kaid that I was talking about taken off the board. There are still two other players to find down below, and it looks like the Valkyrie is trying to either rotate back to site or get the flank onto Cyclone, and no, it's going to be a C4 onto the stock hatch. GDN will also take down Kamikaze, but Pino will find the refrag onto GDN, leveling things at a 3v3. Psycho spots out the mute, but ultimately looks away at just the wrong time as Live is able to land the shot with the SMG-11 and shut down the Capitao. Julio not able to find the refrag in time as this mute had bailed out of position. And it's once again a man disadvantage for the ninjas as they have to find their way out of a 2v3. Ninjas and Pajamas once again really struggling to find the map control they want, and Black Dragons as a result just abusing things. And PZD will once again rotate and find yet another kill, and this time on to Pino. Julio is able to get the refrag, so he has to work his way out of a 1v2. And if there's any member on Ninjas and Pajamas, it is Julio that can win these sort of clutch situations. But an ADS is going to eat up his Nomad charge, so he won't even be able to watch his flank as comfortably as he would like. Trying to quick peek into the hallway, see if he spots out any players that might be set up and having guns trained on his position. He spots out both of them, but it doesn't matter as Hugzord's there to shut him down, and Black Dragons will push map number 1 to match point. The Ninjas really struggling to find any ground on their attacks as they've now failed every single site, and all 3 of the attacks they have gone for thus far. The one thing they have going to in their advantage right now, though, is the fact that they know how Black Dragons wants to play every single one of these sites, or at least their primary strategy for every single one of their sites. So they're likely to have adaptations and not be caught as off guard. But it really feels like they're not entirely certain when and how they want to clear. You can see a lot of members of the ninjas almost being forced to solo clear a lot of time. You saw that as Psycho went down to try and find 3 members pretty much all by himself. He found one. One player was able to completely escape and I believe rack up a triple kill in the process. And then the third player gunned him down and dropped away before anyone from the ninjas could try and get that refrag. If the ninjas want to pull back here on map number 1, they're going to both pick up the pace, but also have a bit more of a committed strategy as towards how they want to push the site. Previously, when they pushed here, they got open area control pretty early on. In fact, they got both top floor controls pretty early on, but they didn't really translate that into a server push for a default plant, a scary vault side push, a possible garage side pressure. They just had open area and the hatch control, and that was about it. Despite the 2 kills they were essentially gifted on the attempted retake from Black Dragons onto the top floor, they didn't translate that into any main stairs pressure either. So, if you are the ninjas right now, staring at the possibility of losing map number 1 in the best of 3, despite how strong your performance has been lately, and of course, this is Black Dragons' map pick, so it's very possible that when we go to Border and Consulate that we'll see a swing in the other direction, and Muzzy, not ready to give up on this map just quite yet, will take down the Mute, so that is a very good pick early on, as that's going to be one of 2 Nitro Cells gone for the side of Black Dragon. So the utility game coming out from Red Hallway that the ninjas struggled so hard to suppress and ultimately had to just throw bodies at the problem and lost out as a result is going to be weakened on the side of Black Dragons. So a good pick there from the Thatcher. But again, they now have to clear out this player playing at the top of server stairs. It actually looks like Psycho's going to smoke off his reinforcements so Kamikaze can drop in and take him down. It's an excellent play there from Ninjas and Pyjamas. Good coordination to pinch out the player, the smoke, playing on the server stairs. And that means none of the gas canisters will be a threat either. Kamikaze was extremely hurt in the process, and he's likely to give Diffuser to another more full health attacker. But the coordination there between the Capitao and the Thermite paying dividends and getting them control of server that they want at the minute mark. The only utility baiting that they really have to do is going to be Nitro Cell, especially now that Muzzy has reclaimed Diffuser, so it's not likely that the Evil Eye is going to be able to affect him too drastically. Hugsword is playing the long angle with the Maestro, and Panico is going to take down Muzzy with the 1c4 that was left on the board for Black Dragons, but that is all the utility utilized. Hugsword, though, pushing into the site, actually, and gunning down Kamikaze, and Hugsword's going to get Psycho as well. All of a sudden, it's just Pino in a 1v3 to try and save the map for the ninjas. So despite how good of a start they had, it will ultimately fall to the wayside as Pino now finds himself in a 1v2 with 18 seconds left on the board. He has to find two. That's the Kaid. He won't find either. The Kaid gunning him down, and Black Dragons taking map number 1. Was my adjusting on the quality of the source stream more effective in terms of dealing with the slideshow effect, or do you guys want me to go into OBS and see what I can do to fix things for map number 2? Again, I'm on a different setup, so yeah, it's a lot weirder than normal, but I hope that was enough to fix the problem. But, how's it looking for you guys now? Is it looking any better, or is it still just as slideshowy? Alright, let's go into OBS, see what we do. Ooh. Alright, it looks like it has calmed down though since I made the adjustment I did, and I hope that's gonna fix things. Okay, so it is still pretty choppy. It looks like it is calming down a bit. But yeah, no, I'm really sorry because again, I'm on a different setup than I was previously. And yeah, as you can see, it is having a detrimental effect. But it looks like the amount of drop frames are gradually decreasing to that percentage going down. So hopefully it's going to perform a little bit better now. But yeah, I'm very sorry about the current situation it's in. And again, that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm on a different setup. But we're getting into map number 2 now. I still want to get to the game. I don't want to waste your guys' times. So hopefully it's going to be a little better now. But ultimately, I'm doing the best that I can with what I've got. And same bands coming out from both teams as we get onto Border. Nothing too crazy there either, as all 4 of those operators are just as potent here as they are on Bank. Now, Border was the Ninjas' map pick, and it should perform better for the Ninjas compared to Bank, where they looked a lot more lost, and it almost looked like Bank was not the map they were expecting Black Dragons to take them to. Or they just weren't anticipating this ban onto the Dokkaebi. Either way, they're going to still have to deal with the Doke ban going into this map, and they're going to be a map down. They will get to defend again, and the Ninjas have definitely shown themselves, at least so far, to be far more proficient on their defensive sets than on their attacking set. And that's going to be good for them to try and get the momentum that they need after losing out on the first map. Border will allow them to also play a lot more aggressively than they were able to on Bank, especially for a team like the Ninjas who like to expand their map control quite a bit. You don't have to worry so much about leaving a gap in your defenses the way you might otherwise. And you can see that from Julio setting up his bandit batteries onto the triple wall of the office's side. So there's going to be a pretty heavy office investment from the side of the Ninjas. In fact, it looks like the bandit is going to be trying to trick for as long as possible as well. No Thatcher on the board from Black Dragons is also going to make the Bandit a lot more of a pain to clear. So it looks like that's going to be the call for Panico to go down below with the Buck to force the Bandit out of position. You can see the ADS was also set up to help out Julio in case a nade came from above. So that will have to be burned out before any such frag grenades can come flying in. Assuming that Black Dragons even has the utility to burn out those ADSs, as the only one with stun grenades available to them. Well, there are two actually, because PZD and GDN. The question is, of course, if the Thermite or the Nomad brought stuns. And you can see Julio is wary of a potential player being sent from below to clear him out. But the office side take from Black Dragons has stalled out pretty drastically because of the fact that they do not have Thatcher to deal with this electrified trip wall. Frag Grenade is getting prepped by Panico, and it looks like Julio has actually fallen off of the position. No, he's going to come back, but I believe the ADS should have caught that, but no, Panico taking down the Bandit, who came back at just the worst time. So despite not having the Thatcher, they'll manage to make it work. But Psycho there to gun down GDN Live will get the refrag, but the Thermite is taken out before he can open up anything other than the trip wall. That office wall is going to stay intact for the ninjas going into the site proper. And that's really going to put a damper onto the push from Black Dragons. They do still have the man advantage, of course, available to them. That's going to be the one thing they have going for them right now, as they will have to funnel into the site now that Psycho was able to take down the Thermites. Good pick there from the Valkyrie to try and salvage things out for the ninjas. PZD is going to spot out the head of Muzzy, though, but Pino's there to return the favor, keeping things at a one-man disadvantage for ninjas, but not letting things spiral any further out of control. The Nomad taken off the board as well. However, they have quite a few frag grenades to work with still, thanks to Live having both in his pocket, and I believe Pino still has one as well. So they could potentially force the remaining anchors of the ninjas out of position. The first frag grenade is going to go flying up, but it doesn't look like it connects with anything, possibly eaten up by an ADS. Second frag grenade coming out from Live, also not connecting with anything, but Live is able to get into sight, but Pino and Kamikaze there to shut them down. And Pino, taking on Hugzord, aligned the Ninjas in Pyjamas to claim their first defensive round here on Border and start things off better than they were able to do on Bank. This is the momentum that they need to get rolling if they want to walk away with this map, push things to map number 3, and hopefully be the ones that move on to the next series against FaZe Clan. Of course, for the Black Dragons, really the big thing you learned at the end of that round is, well, we just brought the wrong lineup. With the way they're playing the bandit and stuff, we need to either have some alternative option for the lack of us bringing a Thatcher, or we just need to run the Thatcher. And right now, it looks like they're going to actually be sticking the same lineup, which could prove difficult. However, they are going to be attacking a different site, so it's not as big of a deal, but they have quite a bit that could get in their way that's going to be hard to remove without a Thatcher, namely the Mute and the Bandit in play to try and slow down their droning as well as their hard breaching potential. At the very least, it's going to eat a lot of utilities away from the side of the Buck and the Sledge. So they're going to have to dedicate frag grenades most likely to get some of these devices set up on the other side of walls. And Pino, reading into the lack of the Thatcher, is going to double up with Kamikaze, setting up an ADS onto the jail wall, making it a lot harder to remove, as they'll have to also now burn out ADS before they can even throw out a frag grenade and take out the mute jammer in position. Psycho playing this long angle that you'll often see players perched up on to defend the office's side push. He has the wall next to him electrified as well, and so you can see how much the lack of a Thatcher is really going to make Black Dragon slow down and struggle as they begin their push into the map. You can also see Black Dragons, they are a bit hesitant of potential jump outs and the like from the ninjas. Something I want to point out there is the fact that every time Hugzord has gone onto that rappel, he's called in Panico there with the skeleton key to hold the angle on the window with a shotgun in case a ninja comes flying out of the window. A good tactic to be wary of, considering the ninjas are renowned for their aggressiveness, but it is something that's going to be slowing down Black Dragons and causing players to double up in places they might not otherwise double up on, and ultimately slowing them down should they have to rotate. Pino is going to be the one tasked with holding on to the security room by himself right now, but he likely has support here from Psycho who can hold the cross, but Hugzord trying to prevent Psycho from even being able to go and assist his teammate. He is checking to make sure that he's not on camera somewhere, and he's going to walk into the line of sight of the Valkyrie. He'll eat a little bit of damage, and he'll take a little bit more, but ultimately the IQ is still alive and kicking. As Psycho's going to have to try and contest this office side push and continue to buy as much time as possible here for his team. PZD, meanwhile, is going to light up Pino, and Psycho's going to eat a fair bit of damage himself, as both players will now rotate off and drop back down to sight. Thermite charge being used now onto the office wall into the archives so that they can begin their work opening up above the site and going for their execute. Psycho set up down below, trying to deny that push entirely from here below, and Panico prepping a nade that might catch a target, and ultimately it will not. Psycho, though, will eat even more damage in the process, but the Valkyrie is still alive. 38 seconds left for Black Dragons to make this push work, but they have health advantage firmly on their side. Pino, though, will take down lives, so that's going to be a good initial pick for the ninjas. As the C4 comes sailing out, it will not connect with anything, and Panico's nade, though, will, as it'll take down Kamikaze. PZD will be taken down by Muzzy, and Psycho just trying to hold on to this bathroom side push. Pino's there to help him out, so Pino and Psycho will tag on for 1 apiece. Hugzord and PZD left in a 2v3. But two players on the ninjas make that one player on the ninja extremely low on health. The Psycho gets gunned down by Hugzord. PZD is inside a sight, and Hugzord will drop as well, but Pino's there to shut him down. The Jaeger finding so much damage on so little health and ultimately winning out his team the round, as Black Dragons will fall short on time. A much stronger start here from Black Dragons on border, definitely showing why they picked this map, at least initially, and putting the ball into the Black Dragons' park to make the adaptation. And the big adaptation that the Black Dragons should seriously be considering at this point, and they're actually going to be calling a tactical timeout, not wanting to lose the momentum they had on the previous map. But the big thing that I can see is the fact that they're still not running that Thatcher. And you can see how heavily the ninjas are investing in their hard breach denial, their intel denial. Having that Thatcher available in the current meta just makes your life so much easier. And it makes it a lot harder for defenders to contest those walls, to contest those drones in the avenues that they might be trying to employ from the attack. And I want to see if Black Dragons will either bring out that Thatcher or bring out something that requires them to not have to play as risky and use up as much utility just to get electric batteries and mute jammers and electro claws, whatever the ninjas might be throwing their way off of the walls. Now, they have had a lot of success with their frag grenades so far, so they haven't actually had to take out any ADSs with a Thatcher EMP. They've been either doing a good job of burning them off screen that we haven't been able to see, or the ninjas are just slacking on where they're setting them up. Black Dragons, though, still sticking the same lineup, and this time it won't make too much of a difference, as on this customs hold coming out from the ninjas, they're only going to be running the mute, who's likely going to set up one jammer on the jail wall, but that's something you can easily nade out. Psycho could put an ADS near it, as we saw the ninjas doing earlier, to catch nades for that express purpose, in which case it will have to be burned out first. But there's not going to be nearly as much of a focus on the hard breach denial as there was in the previous rounds when they doubled up with the bandit as well. Muzzy having to use a stim pistol early on, though, as he took some damage during the prep phase, likely a missed impact. and he's going to go for the spawn peek and not connect with anything. This time on the dock, he is going to be tasked with holding security on his lonesome. He has a deployable shield to work with that was likely given to him by Cycle on the Jaeger. So that's going to help him out in contesting the angles into his doors. And he's going to be peeking aggressively, running outside of this room because ultimately for this site, the longer you can hold onto this top floor, the better. And the moment it falls, you're going to be in trouble. Live taking down Psycho, though, is going to take away the immediate support that Muzzy would have had. And it looks like Julia is going to use this as his cue to rotate up and help out his teammate. Ninjas in Pajamas, they need to hold on to this top floor for as long as possible. Once the Buck and Sledge are able to work their way into security, start opening up on the site, it becomes extremely difficult to hold on to customs. PZD setting up a nice drone here is actually going to catch out the Maestro. Is also rotated up top to help out his teammates. Some free fires coming out from the IQ on that information, but it won't connect with anything as Pino will not go that far in. We've seen some excellent drone play from Black Dragons this entire series so far, and it's been a large portion of their success. As the ninjas, despite running that Mozzie Mute combo in a number of rounds, aren't quite being able to stop out these drones. Live, though, missing out on the opportunity for a early kill, and Kamikaze getting one onto PZD will even out man count again, but Live will finally get a kill in this, but it's onto the dock, not the Meister that he had the opportunity on before. Panico almost catching the Legion on his rotation, and Pino gunning down Hugzord, punishing Live for missing his shots earlier, as that customs control is finally vacated over to Black Dragons, but they're still not entirely certain where they're being shot at. It was indeed through the hatch from the Meister, but he's not going to contest that angle for too long, knowing that the attack has the advantage in that engagement. Julio is going to take down Panico, but his teammate's going to be downed by the sledge from above. But that kill will not be able to be confirmed, as Live struggling to find the angle means Pino is picked back up. So man advantage still in favor of the ninjas. Live now working his way in from passports and a bit of a desperate send in the final 8 seconds. He thinks better of using his hammer onto the last barricade, but ultimately, he's going to actually win out on the gunfight with the low health Pino. But there's no time left for the plant. They can't find the remaining 2 members of the ninjas. And the ninjas will be able to complete a perfect set of their rotation on the defense. 3 rounds in the row for the ninjas, trying to wash Bank out of their memories, wash away that 7-3 scoreline, and come back into this series roaring to go. As we enter into round number 4, this means that the ninjas can go back up to their primary site of the armory. And now's the point where I'm really wondering if, for the armory take, will Black Dragons employ a Thatcher? I know Latin America loves to ban the Thatcher on border, so a lot of teams have strats to work around a lack of a Thatcher, but Thatcher's not banned, and yet his utility isn't being utilized. Despite how much emphasis, and again, you can see Julio playing the bandit, setting up to do the exact same thing on the office wall and waste time. Now, last time he got taken out by a frag grenade that was well cooked and well timed from Panico on a frag grenade that was not caught by the ADSs, as they were likely either burned out or possibly shot from some angle by the side of Black Dragon, who again, they're not going to be running that Thatcher that I keep harping on and on about. Ultimately, we'll have to see if they've made the proper adaptations to take this site despite not having a Thatcher, but it's going to be a difficult one indeed, as they haven't shown that fortitude just yet of really being able to attack anywhere, but especially when they have to open up this office side wall without a Thatcher on the board. Last time, bear in mind that while Julia was taken out at around the halfway mark by a frag grenade and they were able to open up that wall, Julia bought enough time and was able to put enough pressure that Psycho was able to rotate in and take down the player pressuring his that wall and gun down the thermites. Muzzy did get down by a frag grenade, wasting that utility, but Psycho's there with the dock to stim him back up to full health. Live ultimately coming out with the disadvantage in that situation, and the Evil Eye is set up to give Muzzy plenty of intel should someone be peeking into that hallway. Likely how he was able to capitalize on the sledge in the first place. You can see Hugzor trying to work his way into archives from the door, and he might very well get in. And indeed, Black Dragons are just going to be sending right in. Live gets one, but he's going to be taken down by Julio. Psycho's going to take down Hugzor. That leaves one player left in there, and Julio's there with the Nitro Cell to take him down. PZD will get a refrag onto Pino, so man count won't swing too far in favor of the ninjas, but it will now as Psycho takes down Panico. And Psycho, with the revolver kill onto PZD, will give the ninjas in pajamas 4 rounds in a row here of their defense of border. Black Dragon's really struggling to make anything work. And maybe this time, they'll finally learn from their difficulties and find a way to speed things up like a Thatcher. But I doubt it. It's a difficult situation to see because while Black Dragons, they definitely have a plan without a Thatcher, and they want to be running this lineup that doesn't rely on him. It hasn't been working, and it's not necessary because, again, Thatcher isn't banned. It'd be one thing if Thatcher was banned the way he often is on border, and if Black Dragons wanted to brute force the lack of a Thatcher approach, they probably should have banned the Thatcher in general. Instead, they banned the Dokkaebi. I know the bans up there said that Nip banned the Dokkaebi, but as you can see, Nip apparently banned the Monty and the Doke, which isn't possible. So it was Black Dragons who banned the Dokkaebi again to hamper Julio on his attacks. But while you might hurt Ninjas' attacks by banning out that Dokkaebi, your defense, your own attacks in particular, should be a lot more effective. And you have the opportunity to make them so. Because Thatcher is so powerful right now. Or even at least a Twitch, something to get this utility that doesn't rely on them having to expose themselves as much and can't be caught out by a simple ADS. But they're not investing in any of that right now, and they're suffering as a result. Even the Capitao to just force the bandit off of the trick might be a decent adaptation. Something other than the current lineup they're running, which is possible of dealing with those bandits, and we've seen them sort of have success taking the bandit off of the office wall at least, but again, it's a lot riskier, and ADSs are going to waste a lot of time as you'll have to burn out the ADSs first before you can even do anything with your frag grenades. I don't know. It's a confusing predicament that Black Dragons are putting themselves in for no real reason right now. As again, you see the ninjas running that mute bandit combo, which is going to be very annoying to deal with when you don't have a Thatcher. And Psycho, finally coming alive in this match, will take down Hugzord. I didn't get to say his name a lot the previous map, but it's going to be a different story here on Border. Pino lighting up the Sledge of Life, taking him down to about half health, utilizing some bullet holes on that 90 wall that were just not droned out by Black Dragons. And that's actually a position that we've seen Black Dragons play a lot of too. So a bit of a sloppy approach, and Live's going to pay for it. Julio's also going to take down Panico. That's your buck off the board, one of your set of frag grenades, as well as your more effective vertical destruction. But thankfully, this is a bottom floor attack, so the sledge will be worthwhile. Julio will be droned out, but he'll spot out the drone and take it down. But PCD and Live, they're with one apiece, meaning that man count will now be evened out. However, they have a minute to work with, and they have to now fight onto the actual site players. Live is low on health himself, so these nitro cells, or rather, or even the goo mines, can really hurt that sledge quite quickly and make his life a lot harder. And he's going to be the primary force as far as Black Dragons push into the site is going to be concerned. We've seen how much of an impact player he can be, getting those aggressive picks and setting up his more support oriented teammates. So, him being low on health, it's not a great situation for Black Dragons as they're now finally starting to work in from this bathroom side push. And we saw how it got shut down previously when they had plenty of time. Now they're doing it with 15 seconds. Kamikaze will get live. PZD will get one onto Julio, but Kamikaze and Psycho to tag on with one apiece. And Black Dragons up 5 rounds to. Sorry, Ninjas and Pyjamas up 5 rounds to Black Dragons' 0. Not even the polar opposite of Bank, as Bank at least was a close contest in these initial rounds. It eventually walked away with a 3-3 split before Black Dragons ran away at the half. This is more than running away. This is Ninjas and Pyjamas on pace to get a perfect half. That only have to win one round to push us over to map 3. We are finally seeing an adaptation come out from Black Dragons. It's going to be the Ash of Panico instead of the Buck that he had been running previously. So a lot more fragging power available to the team, while they'll still have good amount of soft destruction still in play. And again, this is the one site where I can forgive them for not having the Thatcher, as it's not as intensive on trying to clear out utility like those beat jammers or the bandit batteries, because Ninjas and Pyjamas aren't focusing so heavily on that. So we'll see if Panico, having a bit more of a powerful gun in his hands and more maneuverability, is going to be what it takes for Black Dragons to pick up the face and clear out this top floor roam that they struggled to previously and ultimately lost the round on time. And there's been a lot of these rounds that they have lost on time, which again is something they would have more of if they just had a faster way of clearing off the utility, stopping their pushes. Muzzy trying to get this initial peek onto a player coming up from Valley. He'll spot out an arm, but ultimately not get anything other than one bullet in Live's direction. We'll see if he continues to peek this angle or if he finally falls off. And indeed, that looks to be the plan from the dock. He wastes a little bit of time and does a bullet's worth of damage to the sledge, but ultimately he's just there to make sure Black Dragons are more wary of their push and trying to capitalize on mistakes from their side. As Muzzy will now fall back to security again. For this customs hold, you really need to hold onto this top floor for as long as possible. The moment you lose it is the moment you pretty much lose the site. Unless, of course, it was like last time where Black Dragons finally got it, but had ultimately no time to push onto the site. Live knows that there is a player that wants to get aggressive on him, and the Meister Cam is going to be how he has the intel to do so, but prepping this frag grenade could be the moment he takes some shots worth of damage. The call out came out the moment he pulled the pin, and Live's going to be brought down to one shot from any gun available to the Ninjas. Once again, that's going to make things difficult for Live, as he and Panic are really the two-headed spear that Black Dragons utilizes to break into players and roamers and start their clear. So him being so low on health isn't going to be easy for Black Dragons to overcome. But ultimately, he is still alive, and that's what matters. Hugster's going to take out the Valcam that was giving intel in his direction, and we saw C4 previously fail to find its mark, so Ninjas and Pyjamas running a bit lower on utility. Pino's going to take a lot of damage himself and ultimately be gunned down by Live as he looks to set up a second. The Jaeger running into his line of sight, and Panico will actually take down Pino. Indeed, it was the Jaeger that was gunned down. And Black Dragons having the man advantage, especially as Panico tacks on with another onto Julio. It's all up to Kamikaze and Muzzy to hold out in a 2v5. A lot of hurt attackers on the side of Black Dragons, but man advantage is firmly there. Panico will be shut down by Muzzy. So it's now only a 2v4, but they have 30 seconds to work with. Again, Live and Hugzord both just taps away from dying, but Muzzy in a very difficult position now that the hatch has been opened out, but he wins the gunfight anyway, and that's PZD off the board. The Nomad down and out. Remaining 12 seconds, Muzzy tries to revive himself, but Live wins out in that gunfight either way, leaving Kamikaze in a 1v3. He's eating a lot of damage from the hatch, but he wins out the gunfight on the Hugzord. Plant is still going down, though, and we'll see if a C4 can come out to stop it, but to no avail. Second C4 is going out towards the pings, but it won't connect with anything either. He knows where both players are, but he turns his back to one. GDN giving his team their first round of the match and denying Ninjas in Pajamas the opportunity for a perfect half. Ultimately, it looked like the brute force fragging approach finally paid off onto the one site where it really can here on border, and bringing that Ash did seem to be enough for Black Dragons, but man, it got really close there on time as well. It's possible that if Kamikaze had the intel on the plant going down in default, he could have gotten Nitro Cell there, and while unlikely to stop the plant, he probably would have picked off that kill, putting himself in a 1v1 situation and only having to worry about a singular angle because he had all the intel on where Black Dragons, his last remaining player, was. One thing that Ninjas in Pajamas have realized that is in the lineup available to the attack is that Thatcher. Ironically, Black Dragons, they're not investing in the same kind of hard breach denial that the ninjas were, not bringing a bandit or a Kaid or a mute. But the Thatcher will still have targets in the form of those Evil Eyes and the ADSs. Evil Eyes, in particular, being another one of those nuisances that was a little bit difficult for Black Dragons to clear out efficiently. They had frag grenades to do so, but frag grenades require a bit more finesse to take out an Evil Eye and take a little bit more time than just throwing a Thatcher in the direction and shooting it. The Ash adaptation might have also came to deal with the Evil Eyes, as it will be a lot easier to get them with an Ash. And Ninjas in Pajamas are actually going to be running both from the get-go, not double stacking on nades the way Black Dragons were. It's going to be Psycho on Ash, and while he struggled on Bank, he's really come alive here on Border, being momentous in a number of rounds for Ninjas and Pajamas, and now he's going to have an extremely powerful rifle in his hands, as well as that 3-speed ability of the Ash to do quite a bit of damage to Black Dragons' defense, which is going to be focused heavily on holding from the security side. The frag grenade barely missing out on a kill there on Live. You can see how close to death he came, and he's going to drop a gas canister down there to try and dissuade the buck of Pino from pushing too aggressively on the holes that were made, but he will be droned out, so it is known that the smoke is still in position, and they likely know about Hugzord's position as well. Live having to contest with this buck down below. He's going to eat a lot of damage and be downed, and Pino will finish him off. So that's your smoke taken off of the board quite early on, as now Pino can hold the flank and the retreat towards Metal Stairs side. There is still Hugzord to contest with inside of security, and that's going to be Muzzy's job to deal with. They know about his position, and the flank is being held, or sorry, the rotate back to site is being held by Pino, but he's actually now going to focus on just dealing with the dock outright. As you can see, this pinch and collapse go on to the security hold that was in position from Black Dragons. Psycho running the R4C instead of the G36, and Pino getting the call to deal with the player on half wall. He's going to force the Meister out of that position, and he's now going to have to contest with the buck below him, not really being able to focus on the armory wall like he might otherwise enjoy doing. And the frag grenade getting prepped and sent up, but ultimately will fall just a bit short. Second one is being prepped from Pino, and it's going to do a lot of damage to GDN, but he is still alive, and he'll be docked a little bit up, having quite a bit more health than he did otherwise, and now he's back to full health, so he'll actually be the winner in his little gunfight here with Pino, who is struggling to find where the Meister has rotated to on the half-wall side, but GDN also missing out on a shot on Pino, and that's going to be his downfall as Pino gets him from below. The half-wall clear successful for the Ninjas, as Muzzy will take down Hugzord, the last player that was left in security, at least at one point in the round, vacating site control all the way over to Ninjas, as they'll now start to go for the defuse attempt. Panico trying to make a play, but Pino's there to shut him down. That's a triple kill for the buck, and Julia will get the final kill of the round onto PZD. And the Ninjas in Pajamas will push us to match point here on border, map number 2. 6-1 so far in favor of the Ninjas, who have just looked dominant, whether it be on the offense or on the defense. The strategies being employed by Black Dragons not paying off here, as that security hole was dissected quite efficiently from the Black Dragons, as was the half wall play. We'll see if Black Dragons, now on the precipice of a map 3, are able to adapt on a different site, adapt here on Armory, or if they're going to fall flatly and we're going to be going over to Consulate. It is once again going to be the Armory defense coming out from the side of Black Dragons. And they're not going to be changing up the lineup too much outside of the Rook in place of the Maestro. Rook is not the most situational by any means at a high level play. He's got a very simple, easy to use gadget, which I don't think has been placed down yet, which hopefully will be placed down sooner than later by Panico, as it'll just give his team more time to judge when they want to get their armor, but should come out shortly. But either way, it's a read that was likely made on the fact that they're not too worried about the intel on Nip's pushes. They're confident in their Valk and just their players being able to get the intel they need on where these pushes are coming from. What they're worried about are the nades and the like coming out from the Ninjas, and having the Rook armor should assist them in that endeavor. A bit of a creative approach to this spawn peak coming out from Black Dragons, the impact being thrown right at the start of the round to give Live an angle on a player pushing up from Valley, but it won't connect with anything, and Psycho will actually get a kill onto the Valkyrie. You do still have 2 ACOGs trained onto this security break room door, but the drone is going to spot out Live. He's got a deployable shield and an ADS to make sure that no one that can just push him from east stairs, and a Jaeger to help him out as well. But Muzzy's going to get his teammate of Panico. That was the other ACOG watching onto that door. And now all of a sudden Live has to deal with 2 angles playing this unique position. The Jaeger still on east stairs, buys him enough time to be able to rotate away safely. And you can see there's still some armor waiting to be claimed by the Doc, who's in a gunfight with 2. He downs the Ash, but he's going to take a lot of damage currently in the process, and won't be able to confirm the kill onto Psycho, who's able to crawl away to safety and will likely be picked up shortly. Live, taking advantage of the time to heal himself back up, will ultimately do a fair bit of damage for his team, but he's still caught off on an island and having to find a way to rotate back. Hugzort prepping the window onto vents in case he has to make a run out and try and deny a player on Sandwich. And GDN is going to be the sole man trying to hold out on this onslaught that's going to be coming in from the Ninja shortly. Live going for the run out from the jail wall, but he will not see anyone, as no one on the Ninjas will give their positions away quite there. Going to peek out a second time and take the head of Psycho, but meanwhile his teammate of Hugzord has been downed, and a second frag grenade will confirm the kill, and actually down GDN as well. So it's all up to Live in a 1v4. He's going to have to get the ace if he wants to win out this round, or at least pick up his teammate, as Live's going to eat a lot of damage from the player onto the vent windows. He's getting pinched from both sides. Kamikaze swings around, takes him down, and the Ninjas will win map number 2, pushing us to a map number 3 here on Consulate. The dominance shown on Bank returned in favor and in kind by the Ninjas here on Borders. They'll walk away with that map at a 7-1 to the 7-3 that they were dealt on Bank. The polar opposite of the story that the Ninjas had on Bank, in terms of they definitely knew how they wanted to push in, how they wanted to attack, where they wanted to take map control, and you didn't see the same sort of struggling, the same sort of doubling up that we saw on Bank. And that's why the Ninjas were so comfortably and confidently able to walk away with that round. For those of you tuning in now, I do want to again apologize for the lackluster quality this time around. Again, I'm on a different setup, and I know it's making things a little bit harder to watch. I'm very sorry about that. I will be back on my normal setup tomorrow, and we won't have to deal with this again. But I do apologize. It was just something out of my control in terms of why I couldn't use my standard setup. And yeah, I hope it's not impeding the viewing experience too much. But yeah, again, very sorry about that. But I hope you guys are enjoying the cast either way. And I hope that you guys are enjoying this matchup on the first finals for BR6. So far, we've had an excellent contest here, I think, between the two teams, and it's a lot closer than I think a lot of people were betting on right now, as far as how Black Dragons and Ninjas and Pajamas have been performing recently. While Black Dragons has finally had a bit of an upsurgence in terms of where they were previously, they haven't quite hit their consistent, formidable threat level that they had at the beginning of Season 9, where they looked to be a real upset team, a team that was coming in and having the potential to go toe to toe with the top of Latin America, with the Ninjas, with Team Liquid, with FaZe Clan, with Immortals, beating out or drawing with a lot of these teams, ultimately looking like a competent threat the entire time. Then they had some roster changes, and even before those roster changes, they seemed to finally struggle a little bit, and as teams caught on to them, and ultimately they've really started to drop down, being upset, I think, by teams like INTZ and Team One as far as the standings go, in terms of the potential for those two teams now to be those spanners in the works when it comes to Latin America's powerhouse top four teams, although recently it's been more top three as Immortals has also slumped pretty heavily. Ninjas and Pajamas, of course, have been on the opposite trend after a disappointing end to season 9 where they came one match away from qualifying for Milan, ultimately losing out on the final playdate against Team Liquid and costing them their spot. But season 10 has been a wildly different story for the Ninjas, who no longer look even like the same team they were before. It's finally a team that has shown consistency across the roster and not so one sided and top heavy as they had been previously at times. There were matches where it seemed like only Psycho came to play and the rest of his team was letting him down. Now it's almost the opposite in quite a number of these matches where whether that's because Psycho doesn't need to play or if Psycho is slumping himself, it's honestly hard to tell, but the team is still winning nevertheless. That's what matters ultimately. Ninjas and Pajamas are currently undefeated in Latin America Pro League right now. They have one draw, and that's against FaZe Clan, who are currently in second place. And the last time these two teams met up, which was at the Raleigh qualifiers, Ninjas and Pajamas walked away with a 2-0. Now, neither of those maps are being played in this match. That was Clubhouse and Coastline. And the previous matches between these two teams have varied depending on the map. Again, we hadn't really seen them ever play Bank, at least not in the past set of matches that I had looked through. As before that, it gets very different with rosters and stuff, and I don't think is as valuable or as informative. But Consulate is the polar opposite of that story, as both these teams have played each other quite a fair bit on this map, and I think are actually dead tied in terms of their victories on this map. Black Dragons winning it once, Ninjas and Pajamas winning it once, and them drawing it once. Now, Ninjas and Pajamas were the most recent to win on this map. So I think this is a good map 3 if you are the Ninjas looking to close things out and go on to meet FaZe Clan tomorrow. But if you're Black Dragons, you are pretty comfortable and confident in the fact that you can go toe to toe with the Ninjas on console. Both these teams know how the other likes to play on this map. And we'll see what sort of adaptations and bans come out to swing the games from how they'd been previously when they've faced each other on this map. One thing I hope that we don't see from Black Dragons this time around is the Dokkaebi ban because I don't think it helped them out on Border the way it did on Bank. Although, again, it's one of those very targeted bans towards Julia, trying to throw the player out of his comfort zone on the attack and win out that way. But Julia doesn't seem to have slowed down that much, and I think Black Dragons could really benefit from getting rid of some stronger utility like a Capitao or Thatcher, and hopefully utilize that to their advantage instead of just doing a target ban that at this point reads more like a comfort ban than anything else. Now, if they do go for that Thatcher ban, that can give some prudence to the fact that they weren't running a Thatcher at all on Border, and it cost them, I think, a number of those rounds. If they're going to commit to such a strategy, at that point, just ban him out so that the other team can't utilize him because Nip will use him. It's once again going to be Nip starting out on the defense, so they get the first ban, and actually, the Ninjas are going to ban out the Thatcher. We've already seen that Black Dragons doesn't like to play the Thatcher, so they're not going to be too affected by this, but now they can't adapt and bring him out the way they probably should have been on Border. And once again, they're going to be sticking to the Dokkaebi ban, which, while maybe it helped them out on Bank, I don't know if getting a Doke back would have really affected Nip's play too much there on Bank. The Valkyrie ban is going to be a bit of a difference maker here on Consulate, as Valkyrie is so powerful on this map and enables quite a few runouts and the like. A lot of intel, and it's an operator that Latin America does love to play. The Echo ban coming out from the Ninjas is not too surprising, but this does mean the Mira is going to be on play here on Consulate. Consulate isn't necessarily one of Mira's strongest maps. It's not like Border, which we just saw, or Bank, where she's almost necessary on some of those sites if she's available, and not running her is going to be costing you some powerful utility. On Here on Consulate, she's definitely powerful on the basement hole, whether you set up a bathroom Mira for someone to play and contest piano, whether you set one up just down by the cafeteria or the small office side to contest the garage proper, and it looks like the Mira will be coming out for the garage. But outside of the garage, she's typically not as powerful on the other sites. There are still setups that she can be employed in that can have quite a bit of an effect, but she's not always played in the same way she will be on some other maps. Black Dragons, realizing that they can't employ the Thatcher, are at least going to be bringing the Maverick, which is going to help them deal with the bandit batteries and possible mute jammers set up to deny their push in, especially from the garage side of things. Pino is also not going to be able to bandit trick really effectively at all should the Maverick come into play, or even the Zofia, who can lob some concussions through the drone hole and ultimately stop a bandit in his tracks. But I'm not too certain that we're even going to see Pino attempt it, as bandit tricking has kind of fallen out of the meta on a lot of these sites, especially garage holes, because of how much there is to counter it now. And you can see Black Dragons, they have 3 operators that are quite effective at just stopping a bandit trick in its tracks. That's the Maverick, the Capitao, and the Zofia. Of course, they can also even open up above, but they will have to contest a Kamikaze, who's going to be trying to stall out and deny a piano take for as long as possible using this bathroom Mira. The mute jammer that was placed down at the very end there by Muzzy is going to make it a little bit harder for drones to come in from garage and figure out what the site looks like, so Hugzer can start working without fearing for his life on those Maverick holes. PZD droning out the main lobby as Hugzord commits to the top floor. He will spot out 1 player set up there, and Pino's actually taking quite a bit of damage right now as well. Ultimately, for Black Dragons, this round is really going to come down to how quickly and efficiently are they able to clear out the rest of this map, or if they're able to find a way to just bypass the roam presence in play by the Ninjas. The Thatcher ban is especially going to make it hard to dislodge, I believe, Kamikaze set up on that bathroom Mira. Without having a Thatcher, it becomes very, very hard to push a player out of that position, because he likely has mute jammers or sometimes ADSs, but not in this case, set up to help him out. There might even be some goo mines in positions at the doors to make his life easier. In addition, Black Dragons doesn't have any frag grenades that they could throw in to deal with the smoke either. But right now, they're not even contesting the player inside a bathroom. They're going to set some nomads that will make it harder for him to retake, but he most likely has the hatch blown open so he can drop anyway. As Muzzy is going to finally fall back to sight. Still playing by the pipes, and Kamikaze, uncontested right now on his bathroom. Mira, as we get to the final minute of the round, Black Dragon struggling really to find how they want to enter, but these Maverick holes utilized to try and catch Kamikaze, but instead it'll be Kamikaze catching Hugzord. PCD is there with the refrag, taking down the smoke as he drops. But there's still only 37 seconds left for Black Dragons to make this push happen, and they have to figure out how they want to enter. I'm not even convinced that the bandit batteries have been taken off of the garage panels or if GDN has opened them up at all. And if the Maverick was unable to do so, it's going to be up to the Sophia to open things up from above, where she could be contested from below. And indeed, it'll be the Mira taking that gunfight, and she'll walk away just a little bit worse for wear. Sophia also taking a little bit of damage in that engagement, but there's 8 seconds left. GDN finally starting on a plant, but we might see a C4 coming out shortly, and indeed it will. Muzzy will take down GDN. Muzzy with another onto PZD, and that's all the mute needed to walk up the round. And the Ninjas in Pyjamas keeping their momentum from border, at least for this opening round, as they'll win out on Garage. Black Dragons looking slow to the start and losing out on the round as a result. Kamikaze with good reads there on how the Maverick was going to play his holes. Not getting the kill on the first set of holes, but rotating over to the second hole just in time to get the headshot, take down the Maverick, and ultimately prove why making a singular hole to try and play off of as a Maverick can be so dangerous. It's a mistake that we see a lot of Mavericks often run into, and sometimes it's intentional because they know a line might make it harder for them to get the kill and the hole might go more unnoticed. But ultimately, if you're a Maverick close up on a hole and you're trying to take a gunfight with a defender in the site, he's very likely to land that headshot on you while you're much less likely, and that's all having to do with perspective. It's a wonderful thing. We'll see if Black Dragons have better success now attacking the top floor, and they're going to be running an old staple for this top floor attack that we haven't seen in a surprisingly long time. That's going to be the Blackbeard, who's going to be borderline oppressive on a lot of these windows should Hugzord not miss his shots. And he's shown in quite a number of these rounds that he doesn't miss his shots. Nip do have a number of tools to try and contest with that Blackbeard, should they either go for runouts or just having nitro cells to destroy his shield, or just 2 shotguns they can play up close on the window. But ultimately, dislodging a Blackbeard setup on the windows properly is very difficult, especially once the Nomad is set up on the yellow stairs door, so the runout onto those console windows becomes nigh impossible. Of course, the projector balcony could also be where the Blackbeard sets up, but I think it is going to be a console windows side take, as you can see the Capitao of PZD opening up those windows. But the Blackbeard, nowhere to be seen just quite yet, so he might actually be playing more towards the projector side. Indeed, he's on Skylight right now, so he has the freedom to rotate to wherever the push decides to come through and just hold down the coverage. GDN dropping Diffuser outside of the console windows really screams a console window take, as they don't want to lose their Thermite just yet, and they know that whoever goes for the plant is going to be swinging in from the window. The good Diffuser placement there from Black Dragons to avoid disaster by dropping it in the wrong spot and ruining their push entirely. Live seems to have intel on a player up above him inside of the bathroom area, and he wants to open up the floor, but ultimately the player will rotate out before he finds success with that concussion. And it looks like he actually utilized 2 of his impacts instead of a single one. But Muzzy will be taken down anyway. PZD trying to confirm the kill with a flame bolt, and he might catch 2 for the price of 1 there. And indeed, he will, as his flame bolt will get the Kamikaze that ran in on a Kamikaze mission to pick up the Maestro and did not have any success. Pino will answer back, though, for the Ninjas with a pick onto Panic, as that's your Nomad down. but she's likely placed a lot of her utility already here on Consulate, as most of it is going to be used on external windows and doorways, and doesn't require the Nomad to get inside of the map. Once again, though, a lot of time being burned away by the ninjas as we're down to the final 45 seconds. And Hugzer's going to eat a fair bit of damage, but PCD will get his third kill onto Julio. Psycho flirting with this jump out from the window. He's going to spot out the Thermite, but just unfortunate timing, and the Thermite will win out on that gunfight, leaving Pino in a 1v4. Can he get the ace? No. GDN is there to shut him down from afar through the windows. And Black Dragons will get their first round here on Consulate, something they have struggled to do since Border has been winning rounds, but they got to it a lot sooner here on Consulate than they did on Border, and hopefully that spells a successful trend if you're a Black Dragons fan, wanting them to win out here on Consulate. The Ninjas, though, ultimately knowing that that top floor defense wasn't too ill-advised, the Maestro being caught out of position and being taken down by a Capitao from above, and then even more dangerous was the smoke charging over to pick up the Maestro as that flame bolt landed. It meant that the smoke was burned away for free, and that gave PCD two easy kills and swung not only man advantage firmly in favor of Black Dragons, but also utility advantage in Black Dragons' favor, as taking down the Maestro and Smoke so early on is a huge boon to the attackers. You do not want those two to be your first two picked on defense. In fact, those are probably the last two you want picked on defense, unless you're intending to play maybe a more aggressive Maestro or Smoke style, which is something that Ninjas in Pyjamas likes to do, but definitely wasn't the game plan there. The tactical timeout coming out from Black Dragons shows that they aren't content with how that round worked out. They knew they got a lot of luck on that opening portion of the round, and they want to maintain the momentum now that they have it back, at least a little bit. But the Ninjas, they're not going to gamble with the top floor again, realizing that it may have had a bit of misfortune at the start, but nevertheless, they lost it either way, and they want to try their lobby luck instead. This might make things more difficult for the Blackbeard, as Black Dragons was probably expecting that top floor attack once again, hence running the Blackbeard who can push from the console windows. Now, of course, there are plenty of lines of sight that the Blackbeard can still shut down, but he's not going to be nearly as potent of a force here as he would have been on the top floor. As a reminder for those of you tuning in, I do apologize if quality is worse than normal. Again, I'm on a different setup. I know it's had a pretty substantial impact at the beginning of the stream. I think it's been a little bit better since, but I know it still isn't great, and I do apologize for that. We'll be back to the normal quality that we have tomorrow with the winner of this match against FaZe Clan. And I hope you tune in there as well, as I'll be back to my normal setup. Ninjas in Pyjamas running the Pulse and 3C4s are actually going to be going for a 3-floor deep setup, as the Pulse will be down below to provide a lot of intel on how the lobby take is coming out. And there's quite a few C4 throws that can be made from down below to deny default plants. Now, of course, you can open up pretty much the entirety of the ceiling on both sides. There are a handful of areas that are a little bit harder to get to, but ultimately you can still have the proper angles on every single position. And having two shotguns up top in the Mozzie and the Mute, as well as the Mozzie and the Mute just having utility to make the drone work so hard here on Consulate, is going to make this top floor hold waste a lot of time. But should Ninjas in Pyjamas have to fall back, both the Mozzie and the Mute can go assist the Pulse. Well, they could have, but PZD gets the kill down below, and that's the Pulse off the board. So now they'll have to rely just on the Maestro's Evil Eye intel and any drones that might have been caught by the Mozzie's pests to let them know if some sort of plant is going down somewhere, and how they might have to throw a nitro cell if they try and fall back down below. A good read on Black Dragons to go for that bottom floor clear, realizing that the Pulse was playing on his lonesome and could be pinched quite easily early on in the round. However, despite that early kill, we're still seeing Black Dragons take a bit more time than they'd probably like, as we're a minute in, and all the players have kind of left the building. They had bottom floor control, and that's good, but they still need to clear out this top floor roam. Hugs are desperately trying to line up an angle with the players playing near Projector, but he's not finding anything for his troubles. Live is pushing in from Spiral Stairs and he's going to spot out the mute. He'll do a little bit of damage to Kamikaze, bringing the mute down extremely low and only taking about one bullet's worth in return. So it's a good exchange if they are the Zofia, but ultimately wasn't able to get the kill on Kamikaze, who will likely now rotate down below, prepped and ready with that Nitro Cell. Muzzy will get picked off by Live though, so that's your Mozzie off the board, and that should break apart the entirety of your top floor hold. But Psycho, with the angle onto GDN, will drop Diffuser by the vending machine. He knows this, and he's going to set up another aggressive angle. He has two players pushing into him. He gets one, and Hugzord is actually going to be the one that takes down Panico. He'll finally take down Psycho, but so much time bought by the dock as Hugzord rushes to the Diffuser. He's taken down by Julio from afar, and Julio with two to end out the round. Ninjas and Pyjamas stealing that away from Black Dragons despite the impressive start from the Dragons. It doesn't matter as Psycho was in the right place at the right time to drop Diffuser right in the small doorway. You can see that kill there from Psycho, and then he could just set up in this position. He lands one headshot onto Live. Hugzord trying to pinch with Panic onto Psycho will actually gun down his teammate, but his teammate wasn't likely to have a lot of success either because the flames from PZD were cutting off Psycho from the rest of the enemy. They had to rush through their own fire just to pinch Psycho effectively. And then you can see at the end, Blackbeard didn't have time to wait for the fire to dissipate. He had to charge for the Diffuser, and that was an easy down from afar from the side of Julio, as Blackbeard was taking so much damage in the process as well. It's possibly would have been taken out by the Flame Arrow, even without Julio's intervention. And regardless, if he was dropped at that point, the final kill didn't even matter for Julio, as there was no time left for Black Dragons to plant. This means that Black Dragons can go back to their garage defense, the first site they played, where they had an abundance of success, as this roam game inside of the bathroom in particular was not stopped by Black Dragons one bit. They did finally pinch out the player playing in there, but not before he gunned down the Maverick, making their later attack a lot harder. And he wasted a lot of time. He was rotating out of this position at around the 30-40 second mark. And we saw that final plant start to go down at 8 seconds. That was an easy C4 denial, and that was the map. But Black Dragons should speed up their pace this time around, as the second attack onto any site is going to be a little bit faster from the attack, as they'll now be wary of the strategies being employed by the defense and have some adaptations in mind to speed up their pace. Live holding onto the Spiral Stairs could get a kill onto Pino, but ultimately the Bandit will duck away before he gives away his life. That was a narrow encounter there for Live, as he could have quickly turned the favor onto his team's side, but will not be able to connect the shot with the popping head of the Bandit, playing whack-a-mole. Apparently not Live's strong suit right now. As Psycho will now be called in to rotate down the Spiral Stairs to help out Pino, and actually Pino's going to fall all the way back. It looked like for a second Julio might swap out and take that position instead, but that will not be the case, as it's not just going to be Psycho contesting on these Spiral Stairs, but holding on to this angle will help out his teammate of Kamikaze, who's set up inside of the bathroom. Hugzord still playing the Blackbeard despite knowing that they're going to be attacking the garage, and Psycho will take down Live. So the Zofia paying for the fact that she couldn't get the early kill onto the Bandit with her life. Hugzord on the Blackbeard does give them some longer range clearing potential, as it's going to be quite difficult to dissuade the Blackbeard should he push in properly and aggressively, but he's not really going to be that effective on clearing this mute inside of the bathroom, the smoke inside of the bathroom, provided the smoke doesn't just turn his back or something to the Blackbeard, as this shotgun will take down that Blackbeard regardless should he try and ingress close up. PZD's taking a little bit of damage himself, I believe, from an encounter with Pino, and a flashbang is going to ring out and blind the smoke. It looks like his legs might have been seen, but Psycho's there above to gun down the player of PZD that was trying to deal with the smoke. Pino's going to get another onto Panico, and it's all up to Hugzord and GDN in a 2v5. They've got 30 seconds to work with. They have one player isolated away, but GDN not able to connect enough shots onto Muzzy to take him down. Means that the mute will be able to rotate away, and Psycho's going to finish off what little was left of Hugzord, putting GDN in a 1v5 here on the yellow stairs door. There's not really much that the Thermite can do. He's just going to take some quick peeks. He'll get one on a Kamikaze, but Psycho's there to shut him down. Psycho coming alive here on these final two maps after not really being with us for the entirety of Bang. And it's paying dividends for the ninjas, as normally it used to be that Psycho could be consistently counted on to be there, and then the rest of the ninjas wouldn't necessarily be there. Now, the rest of the ninjas tend to be there, and the question is, if Psycho turns up, it's going to tip what are already kind of in matches that are already in the favor of the ninjas pretty firmly their way, as Psycho can make such a difference regardless of the role that he's placed on. As this case, it's going to be the Clash. We've seen him do a lot of damage with shields before, and we'll see if he can keep up the trend. Ninjas in Pyjamas have gone through a lot of changes with how they flex their players, the kinds of lineups they play. We saw Julio for a while on more dedicated hard breach roles, and then we saw Pino just solely play Buck and nothing else for a while when he was first introduced on the roster. And like how we currently have with Pino and Muzzy, the two of them would often be swapped. If one was going to be on the Jaeger, it'd be Muzzy, and Pino would be on the Maestro. And Julian in particular used to be renowned as the shield player in Ninjas in Pyjamas, one of the best in the world, in fact, especially when it came to operators like Blitz. But in recent times, it's been Psycho who's taken up that mantle for the Ninjas and Pyjamas, and I think that's honestly a good thing. While Julio is by no means a poor shield and probably still an excellent shield, despite the fact that we haven't seen him in a while, we found that the rosters that are the most successful in Rainbow are the ones that are able to change up their roles and don't get content with just having one player constantly be playing on the same sort of roles, flexing that around, e.g., changing things up with Canadian now playing the bulk of shields instead of Young. Or on G2, we've seen a number of flexibility with that roster, as a lot of those players will go onto a lot of different roles. And really, the only team that plays contrary to that sort of approach these days, in terms of the most competitive, highest level of teams, is Empire, who really just focus on their one singular strats and don't need that same flexibility. But as far as other teams, we found that it's flexibility at the end of the day that will win you a lot of matches and a lot of rounds, because you don't get caught in ruts and you start playing out players who are the best in a certain position on a certain map, instead of simply relying on comfort picks with your operators. It's going to be an admin side take, it looks like, from Black Dragons this time around, who pretty heavily put their emphasis on the consulate windows the previous time they attacked this site, in large part due to the fact that how quickly they cleared out the yellow stairs presence. And you can see those mute jammers having a lot of effect, making it hard for Live to drone out. But it actually looks like he's the only member of his team pushing in from the admin side. As you can see, PZD on the projector windows to assist him. And for a while, at least, we saw Hugzord and GDN off on the console window side. We'll see, though, if they rotate over to assist in this admin take. And Live's drone is finally going to be taken out, but not before he gets quite a bit of intel on how the members of Ninjas in Pyjamas are set up. Live just holding on to this long angle from the printer side, trying to catch any errant peeks from the ninjas from all the way back from long desk, as Hugzord will position himself onto the bathroom window to really pressure the player playing inside of there, and that's going to be Muzzy on the Maestro. But you can see those mute jammers having a lot of effect, as quite a number of those drones were destroyed or jammed as we swap through the cams just there. Psycho is going to start eating some damage from his own teammates' toxic babes, but ultimately he's not going to die. And that's what's going to matter as Kamikaze will take down Hugzor. That's going to be your Blackbeard off the table. PZD stalling out because of this clash as stun grenades are being used to deal with her, but Muzzy takes down Live after he guns down Pino. Psycho will finally be down, but Muzzy does have the angle to protect his teammate. He's going to patch out the Zofia. Julio's going to take down PZD in the meanwhile, and Kamikaze is going to take down the planter of GDN to give the ninjas another round. Consulate, while a comfortable map for both these teams, especially when they compete, looks to be going right now the way it went previously for the Ninjas when they met up against Black Dragons here on this map. That was in Playday number 2 of Season 10 of Pro League, and that was a 7-3 for the Ninjas. Not only was it a 7-3 for the Ninjas, Black Dragons were in a very similar predicament that they are currently, as in the Ninjas took 5 defensive wins and 2 attacking wins. They're right now on pace to repeat that performance and get their 5th defensive win here. And if they're able to do that, Black Dragons, not only will it be on the back foot because it's going to be a 5-1, which you're never a situation you want to have to work your way out of. It's going to be a repeat of their previous performance on this map. And that is probably something that's going to weigh on the members of Black Dragons, regardless of if they remember the round count or not. They're going to have a similar mindset and a feeling that they had in that match in Pro League. And to the members of Black Dragons, this match is a lot more important than that match was. Everything you can do to keep it from being like that best of one you played in Pro League is important. I mean, if you let it slip into the same rut, the same thing that cost you this map the last time you played it, you're not going to walk away. And instead of like Pro League, where you still have possibly another 7, or in the case of when this match was played, another 12 days to recoup. Well, but granted, it doesn't look like Black Dragons are in a position where they will be able to recoup in such a manner. You don't get that luxury in the finals of a tournament after a year-long season. Both these teams have put in a lot of work and effort to get to this point, to be the top 4 teams coming out of the BR6 season. For both of these teams, it came down to their final playdays to confirm their spots. Neither team wants to walk home early. They want to go as deep as they can. And for Black Dragons, this is their best shot at getting any sort of medal for quite some time, as they are not qualified for Raleigh. They're unlikely to make it to Japan, which would mean for 6 Invitational, they would have to also qualify elsewhere, whether that be through a minor, whether that be through online qualifiers. It's not a situation you want to be in if you are Black Dragons, and you know that BR6 is your best opportunity to bring home some winnings for your team, especially the prestige of finishing in the top 3. Pino's Nitroso will detonate errantly on this admin side push from Black Dragons, but if you're Pino, you're probably wondering, why did it take them so long to repel into admin? In fact, he'll spot out one player and light up the Nomad as she jumps into admin at a minute 20. Live will get the first pick onto Muzzies, despite the slow start. At least Black Dragons are pushing in, and PZD will get Psycho, so the top floor roam has been evaporated there by Black Dragons. Pino's going to be brought extremely low on health with no doc to heal him up. Julia will get one onto PZD, but Hugzord's there with the refag, and Panico will get Kamikaze, putting Pino in a 1v4 with 5 HP in a dream. He still has to work with 42 seconds as well, so he can't just bait on wasting the remainder of the attack's time, as he's going to have to try and push up from yellow stairs, and his position is known. Panico's there to shut him down, and Black Dragons will at least make sure it's not a repeat of how their Pro League matchup went on Playday number 2 of Season 10. A good salvage of a half that looked to be slipping completely out of their control if you're Black Dragons, walking away 4-2 and now getting to defend on Consulate. And it's what they're going to need if they're going to pull this map back. However, one thing I want to note is that Black Dragons have already used up their tactical timeout, while the Ninjas have not. Should this map start to slip from the ninjas, they will have a substantial advantage in being able to call their timeout when they need it and adjust for now their side swap. Whereas for the Black Dragons, if this starts slipping further, the tactical timeout they call to try and make their attacks more effective is not going to help them when they're now on the defensive portion. All right, so we're back from the slideshow. Again, I want to apologize to any of you just tuning in about quality possibly being worse than normal. Again, I'm on a different setup than I usually am, and it's definitely having a negative impact on the quality of my broadcast. I will be back to normal tomorrow, so I can round out the final 2 days of BR6 at the same level of quality that you've come to expect from my broadcasts. But I am very sorry about the lackluster quality in this match. If I have the time, one thing I might try and do for the VOD of this that I'll upload on YouTube is grab the footage from the BR6 feed and edit that in YouTube and just add in my casting over that so that you guys at least will have a decent VOD to go back to watch instead of the live one that we had. But I'm also not a whiz at video editing, so no promises on that. But I will do my best. You can see the mute jammer proving to be just as effective right now for Black Dragons as it was for Ninjas in Pyjamas, catching quite a bit of their drones and making it a lot harder to dislodge this player set up inside a bathroom. But this player does not have a mirror window the way that Ninjas were running it. And in fact, Psycho playing on the Jackal is going to make it a little bit easier to pinch him out as well. He's actually going to spot out the arms of the mute holding this aggressive angle with the reflex PW9. He's done a little bit of damage to live, but not enough to dissuade the mute from this position. And you can see the Maestro creeping in from Spiral, trying to get the pinch on Psycho. If there isn't a flank drone in position, and if the Maestro gets that call, Psycho could be in trouble as he tries to ingress onto the mute. A peculiar choice that we've seen Psycho run quite frequently has actually been the breach charges on the Jackal instead of just relying on the shotgun destruction, giving up the powerful utility of the smokes. And I'm not entirely certain why this was the reasoning from Psycho, but it's something he's stuck with, and he's actually taken quite a bit of damage from Panico. But the one thing he's done at least is force the player of Live out of the bathroom, and they can now begin opening up the piano floor. So those breach charges will at least have usage there. Granted, between the Hibana and the Ash, I still question running the breach charges instead of having smokes if you're going to run the Jackal, but it appears to be something that the ninjas are quite comfortable in. Panico is going to be watching in case there is a Visa side take, but Muzzy holding on to this rotate will deny any possible retake onto the top floor from the Visa stairs. Spiral and Yellow will be the only two avenues available. You can see those Jackal pings coming out on Panico, and Psycho will finally take down the mute of Live. It was the player that fell off of the bathroom hatch earlier, and now he's going to be punished for his retreat. Still, time is firmly in the Black Dragons' favor as we're getting into the final 20 seconds. They still have gas canisters and that C4 available, but they're not going to have a Maestro available as Pino's there to gun down Hugzord, and the first plant is going down. The final gas canister will come out, but it's not going to be where the planter is. He's going to have to rush and try and take down this planter, but he won't in time as Kamikaze gets the plant down and escapes to freedom. Julio landing the shot while prone. Panic on the retake will take down Psycho, but now he has to jump out and find 3. He finds 1. Can he find 2? No. Kamikaze's there to shut him down. And the Ninjas in Pyjamas will win their first attacking round. A bold jump out there from the Kaid that almost had success as he found that initial kill, nearly landed the second. Of course, he's likely to be gunned down when he approaches back into the garage by the Hibana. But it was a valiant effort in a 1v3 from the Kaid nevertheless. GDN just being a little bit slow on his push as Muzzy wasted his time as the Ash. And that's going to push the Ninjas up to 5-2. Again, last time these two teams met up on Consulate, it was a 7-3 in the Ninjas' favor. If you go back before that, it was a draw, and if you go back before that, it was a victory for Black Dragons, which I think was actually like a 7-1 or a 7-2 or something. It's a dominant victory for them on BR6. But going back that far is again utilizing a different roster, a different team for both of these teams, as they also play different. And it's not going to be made easier by the fact that Huxer is going to eat a lot of damage initially. I believe that was a shotgun hitting him dead on, as one of the players likely just clicked in as this round started and hurt his teammate. The Jaeger is going to have to play with half of his health, and considering he's most likely going to be on some sort of aggressive roam to hold on to as much map control as they can, considering they're going for the split site, that's going to be difficult for Hugzor to recover from. He's one of the players that's going to be the most valuable to be able to tank a couple of bullets in his time wasting up top, especially when he's holding on to admin, as now if Julio fires a firebolt in his direction, the Jaeger will not be escaping with his life. When you're at full health, you have a potential of running out of those flame bolts with your full life, and if ninjas and pajamas aren't watching your cross, or if you're in the right position, you can very well escape and be fine. Considering how low on health Hugzord is, it's unlikely if a firebolt comes his direction that he'll be able to escape. Thankfully, he doesn't have to worry about frag grenades, so the blast radius of that won't be a worry, and there's no Zofia impacts to come soaring his way and take him out either. But it's going to be a difficult position for the Jaeger nevertheless. He does have PZD here to support him on this admin hold, as they want to contest the top floor for as long as possible before falling back to the bottom two floors and defending the site from there. The pulse being in position, as well as two other nitro cells, means there is a lot of denial on that middle floor available to the side of Black Dragons. The Goo Mine is going to alert the Legion of PZD to Muzzy's position here on the balcony, but there's not a whole lot he can do to capitalize just quite yet, as Muzzy's just hoping to catch someone on an unfortunate rotate or an ill-advised peek right now through project. Hugzord extremely low on health now, as he's taken one bullet's worth of damage, and now he's going to be taking the second bullet, and now he's out of there. The firebolt is going to go out to try and dislodge the Legion from his position, but PZD confirming the kill onto the Ash with a goo mine. And GDN getting one onto Pino will swing man advantage in favor of Black Dragons. Kamikaze, meanwhile, solo pushing from the garage. I believe the Nomad is going to come into position to support him shortly. No, the Nomad of Psycho is actually just going to take sight up above on B, taking out the mute, but PCD is going to gun down Julio, so man advantage will still stay in favor of Black Dragons. The C4 from below could prove disastrous, as Panico running the shotgun actually to try and do damage from below, but it's not going to be effective as Kamikaze gets two, and it's all up to PZD. The Legion, the bottom side has been completely forfeited over to the Ninjas, and PZD is going to have to go for a retake. Psycho is extremely low on health, and the Thermite can be taken down quite effectively, as well as he's taken some damage early on too. If PZD is able to get the drop on his two opponents now, he could still clutch this out, but the longer he stalls up top, the harder it's going to be. It's also unlikely that there was a lot of intel available down below for the side of Black Dragons, as typically your intel is focused on the top floor for the C4s, and the air jab gave away his position too. He tries to go for the drop, but he's going to eat a bullet for his troubles. And there's the second bullet as Kamikaze, with the Thermite 3K, he put Ninjas in Pajamas on match, map, and series point. One round away from meeting FaZe Clan tomorrow in another best of three and guaranteeing themselves a top 3 finish in BR6. Black Dragons looking eerily similar to their PL playday. While they got one more round on their attacking set than they got previously, they're going to have to find quite a few more now on their defense to paint a different story than their 7-3 loss previously. Of course, maybe they'll decide to just go for a 7-2 loss, in which case they'll say, hey, it wasn't the PL playday. It was worse. But if you're a Black Dragons fan, if you're a member of Black Dragons, or if you're just wanting a good match, I'm sure you're hoping that's not the case. A reattempt on the garage site that they went to originally, which they lost on previously, as they realized the split site, the spanner in the works, while they did a good job of weeding through ninjas in pajamas during their ingress, ultimately the members of the ninjas that were left were able to make those impact plays and pulled the round back in their favor. Julio getting the one early kill onto Hugsord, who was already so hurt, and then the top four clear died from Ninjas in Pajamas. Every single player that was invested on that was taken down. And it was left to Psycho and Kamikaze, but Psycho forced his way onto the site, won it out. Kamikaze then forced his way onto the bottom site, whereas Psycho forced his way onto the middle site and won his gunfights. And the Pulse was kind enough to give Psycho an avenue into the site with the shotgun. The shotgun Pulse is one of those plays that, while it's definitely hampered the ability for the Pulse to take gunfights and be an impact player, it was because they were really focused on their vertical denial, and they needed an extra shotgun for that as well, and they wanted the Pulse to have the ability to make the holes he needs to lob his C4s to deny the plant, or even just take out a player from below by shotgunning him, which is more effective than trying to fire a UMP up through the floor should that player stay still. But it also meant that he didn't have the range or the ability to contest Kamikaze, who just pushed in straight from the garage. And then he got pinched by Psycho and Kamikaze at the same time, and it was all over. We're unlikely to see them run the shotgun, and indeed it is the UMP for this defense. As Garage, you're going to need a lot more ability to fight at long ranges. And while the UMP isn't one of the greatest guns on defense, and its fire rate is often what makes a lot of players heavily dislike it, it does do a lot of damage per shot and can be somewhat effective in those longer range engagements should you land your shots, because it doesn't have a lot of recoil and does a fair bit of damage. The big thing that hampers it is, again, the fire rate. Psycho, once again, tasked with clearing out the player inside a bathroom, and he's going to miss out on the first opportunity for the kill, but he will spot out the rotate. Meanwhile, Pino is going to take down the Jaeger, so once again, early man advantage in favor of the ninjas. And it's going to just get even better as Pino will get his second kill of the round onto Hugsord. PZD trapped all the way back in Harry Potter, but he'll win out the gunfight against Psycho through the hatch. He's now going to try and retake onto Visa, but he thinks better of it, realizing that a player might be watching that playing. You're seeing the remaining members of Black Dragons feel the need to get a bit more aggressive now that they're at a man disadvantage. They need to take the gunfight to the ninjas if they want to pull this back, because they know they can't let the ninjas just execute default, and PZD is going to do just that as he guns down Muzzy. A lot of damage has been done to Black Dragons and Pino, so health advantage is going to be firmly on the side of Nip. At least it was until Panico and GDN tag on for one apiece. It doesn't look like the Black Dragons are out of it just yet, but if there's any man that can clutch out this round, it's Julio, who does have side control in his favor. He has to find two lit defenders, and a bullet from his power on either will do the job. It looks like the Pulse wasn't aware of his position, so Julio knows that he's going to be rotating from far away as the plant will complete successfully inside of the kitchen. It's up to Panico and PZD on this retake, and they're going to have to find Julio, which is going to be tasked to PZD. He's going to be pulse scanning, trying to spot out the Capitao, but he's not checking Harry Potter, which is where the Capitao is hiding. He has the Mirror working with him, making sure neither one can get picked off freely, but they weren't able to find his position. They'll have to go off of a read, and unless that read is Harry Potter, it's going to be incorrect, but it is likely that they'll figure he's Harry Potter since they didn't spot him out elsewhere. And Julio gets one onto the Mirror. It's now 1v1 onto the Pulse, and Julio will clutch it out and send the ninjas to the next round of BR6's finals to face FaZe Clan. Black Dragons will go home. Julio is often considered a clutch master, and he demonstrates it again on a beautiful 1v3 clutch with the Capitao. Black Dragons, they're not going to be walking home with the grand prize this time around. They're going to have to wait for another opportunity. But they still finished BR6 in the top 4. They still made it to the playoffs, and they'll still get that prize pool. But ultimately, it's not the end of their season that they wanted, but it's what they're going to have. While the Ninjas in Pajamas, they're looking to get their first win under their belts with this roster and this organization. Sick of being silver medalists in Brazil, in Latin America. They're ready to gun for the gold. And their next competition is FaZe Clan, who are also gunning for that gold. That does it for my cast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I apologize for the lesser quality stream. I'm on a different setup. It'll be back to normal tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get another good match tomorrow. As I think Black Dragons, while they definitely struggled on the later two maps, still put up quite a fight, and more of a fight than I think most people were expecting, as that first map was firmly Black Dragons'. And yeah, until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Adios.